All right, give me a sec. Technical difficulties already. All right, you should be able to hear Nick now.
We're good now?
Yes.
Yay.
What's going on, y'all?
That was
How
pretty
you doing,
quick.
ML? How you doing, Alex?
That was pretty quick. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Happy Tuesday. Hope everybody's staying cool. It's hot in a lot of places of the country right now. So
in the world, bro.
Yeah, in the world. I saw I think the heat wave has killed a few people over in Europe, and so hopefully.
Yeah, it's not looking too good in France.
Yeah, so everybody stay cool. Drink your fluids. If you're near an AC, crank that up, and get comfortable. Get comfortable, and welcome to another episode of Face Mask Fantasy. John, thanks for holding it down. Last week, I was for at least a couple of days. I was off this past weekend. Wrapped up my third and final bachelor party this year. Final is kind of one where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of happy that I'm done. Got a couple more weddings still to get through, celebrate the people who I had the bachelor parties for. But the parties themselves, those 3-day benders, I guess, are officially in the books. And my sleep schedule and my liver are both thankful. But anyway, thank you for holding it down.
Yeah, man, glad to have you back as always. We did have fun last week. We did have fun in the members-only stream. We went over a redraft re-rank of the 2022 NFL draft class. So that was kind of fun to go over, some of the players we haven't talked about in a while. You know, the Velus Joneses and some of those guys down at the bottom of the rankings. And then...
Romeo Dubs, did he make the list?
No, he did not. We did not end up talking about Romeo. But on Thursday, we had a little... I went over 4 players, one from each position group, that I thought were values this year. And I think I made some pretty good points there. That live stream will get cut up into 4 separate videos over the course of this week. So if you missed those will be out in some form or fashion over the next few days. But then we just did a mock draft on Wednesday and on Thursday, so covered all the bases.
Nice.
And yeah, man, it was fun.
Cool.
But glad to have you back as always. What's going on, Rojo? What's going on, Hunter? What's going on, Will?
117 degrees. Damn,
that's crazy, dude.
Yes. Everybody, please stay cool, stay hydrated. It's you know how it goes these days over the during the summer. And right now specifically, it's a bad heat wave out there. 117 is outrageous. Will, I'm happy you mentioned Dobbins. I'm actually one of the talking points. I briefly talked about this with John earlier today. I guess I wanted to talk about out at large, just off-season headlines. Like when you get those, it's one thing to react to trade news because that's pretty much like, that's not like a yes or no. Will he be ready? Won't he? It's just this happened. Right? That is something you can react to right away. Baker Mayfield gets traded to the Carolina Panthers. You can immediately start assessing the fallout from that.
Right.
With other headlines where you're starting to talk about guys' availability and their role and how things are looking in the offseason. Now I'm kind of talking about Leonard Fournette a little bit. Just wanted to kind of, as an overarching topic today, in addition to taking questions from the chat and talking about anything and everything from the chat, just wanted to start the topic or plant the seed of like reacting to off-season headlines, and maybe the better word is overreacting to off-season headlines, and just making sure that we're keeping things in perspective because we do still have 2 months to go before the season. Before we get started on that, we do have a couple questions in the chat that I do want to make sure we get to. But yeah, Dobbins will be discussed today. Leonard Fournette will be discussed today.
Absolutely.
There was another headline over the past couple of days.
Deshaun Watson, the news is coming down soon. There was some Kirk Cousins news. There was a little bit of Brandon Ayuk news if you were paying attention, which is why he is in the thumbnail. There was some Greg Dulcich and Albert Okwuegbunam news.
That's the guy I was thinking of, Dulcich. That was the guy I was thinking of. Just reacting to off-season headlines is something that I wanted to keep in, let's try to keep things in perspective today.
Right.
So yeah, felt like that was a good conversation topic. But let's kick things off with ML. He's got a question right off the top about Ayuk, who you just mentioned, not a question, more a comment. Could be Trey's number one wide receiver this year. Certainly a take. Certainly a take. With I like Brandon Ayuk.
That's the most diplomatic way to put it. You've liked Brandon Ayuk in the past, yes.
I do like Brandon Ayuk.
The specific report that I referenced a few seconds ago was one from CBS, and I quote, Ayuk spent time working with Trey Lance during the offseason, but the two weren't always on the same page during spring practices, according to Jack Hammer of the Press Democrat. It's a small sample size of non-contact practices, but there's some extra attention on Ayuk after a poor 2021, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, we can infer what we need to infer from that.
Mm-hmm.
Non-contact practices. It's a quarterback that shouldn't really have any real rapport with anybody because he's probably been working with the second team all last season because they probably had Jimmy Garoppolo working with the first team all last season as the starting quarterback. So, I mean, of course, Trey Lance coming in, who's still a little bit raw, is going to have to knock some rust off and get reacclimated to the playbook, get acclimated to playing with certain players that he probably wasn't playing with on a practice day to practice day basis last season. So, I don't know how much stock to put in a report like this, but saying that he's going to be Trey Lance's wide receiver one target and finishes as a top 12 wide receiver, I think that's going too far the other direction.
Yeah, I can't possibly project him as top 12, especially because I think it's fair to expect that San Francisco might go a little bit more run heavy this year with what Trey Lance brings to the offense that Jimmy Garoppolo just doesn't or can't. So that's not to say that the pass catchers for the 49ers can't all be effective and efficient because they're all very good. They're all top players at their position, Debo and George Kittle, respectively. And then Brandon Ayuk, I have been pounding the table for Ayuk this offseason that he actually replicated his numbers from his rookie season when he kind of exceeded expectations, despite being in the doghouse a couple of times in 2021. He just didn't meet his ADP because he was being grossly overdrafted last year. Right? His ADP, I think, is course corrected nicely. He's now more likely to be going in the 7th or 8th round. I much prefer him there than in the 4th round. And I think he's got a much better chance to provide a good return on investment there. Top 12 receiver with another guy who was just the wide receiver 2 on the season.
And George Kittle.
And George Kittle, who's a perennial top 3 player at the position. On an offense, though, I just don't expect to throw the ball as much, and they were never close to the top of the league throwing the ball to begin with. That's one I can't quite get behind, but I do like Brandon Ayuk at his ADP this year.
I think he's going to be a wide receiver 3 with some wide receiver 2 weeks. I think that's what Brandon Ayuk is going to be. I'm never going to say Brandon Ayuk is going to be a top 12 wide receiver. Does he have that talent in a vacuum? Maybe. If he was considered the team's number 1 wide receiver, if they didn't have a top 4 option at tight end, if they didn't have a top 10 option at wide receiver playing opposite him, at just offensive weapon playing opposite him, sure, because targets are king. But I don't think he will be. I think he'll be Trey Lance's 3rd favorite target, and will finish as a wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And there's still value
for more
to be had from that.
He's just not going to achieve that, especially since he's been in the doghouse before. Yes, he worked his way out of it, but there's no guarantee he's going to stay out of it with a quarterback or with a head coach who is as fickle as Kyle Shanahan has proved to be over the past few seasons with certain players.
Mm-hmm. Sure. We'll see. I'm not, I'm a big fan of planting your flag on what you believe in and how you want to approach any given season or any given player for that season. That one is unfortunate, or, one that I can't quite support, ML, but hey, plant your flag. If you believe in Brandon Ayuk, just draft him everywhere, because he is not somebody that is, where you're pick dependent, depending on where you land in your if you do a snake draft, and if
just
you do an auction,
overdraft him. But
don't overdraft him. But you could, if you decide you want to dip this, if you want to reach down into the 6th round to get him, at the end of the day, get your guy.
And there are worse stacks to have than Trey Lance and Brandon Ayuk.
Trey Lance is the plant my flag quarterback of 2022. So, I can support that because I love my stacks. With that said, I think that is a good segue into kind of some of the other talking points we wanted to discuss. Will did bring up Dobbins, and he is a guy who I wanted to kind of touch on today. Yesterday, on Monday, NFL Network's Ian Rappaport put out a report, or from a source, that basically suggested that
Dobbins
was
probably Hunter L. Let's be real.
No, because he got slandered after that. Hunter's, we can't tarnish Hunter's good name like that.
Fair. Sorry, Hunter.
But the point, or the report, was that Dobbins was not going to be ready for week 1. Kind of definitively, he said that. It wasn't like, oh, it's 50-50. This was from Ian Rappaport, that Dobbins wasn't going to be ready week 1. Dobbins clapped back maybe a couple hours later. I didn't see the specific timestamp, but basically telling him, you need to come to me, or I think it was
within the hour.
Okay,
and Dobbins was heated.
Yeah, he was. Well, yeah, he was disappointed with the report. Clearly, he said, if I don't know who your source is, but you can hear it from me, essentially. And I'm paraphrasing the tweet, just saying that he is gonna be ready week 1. Dobbins believes that he will be ready for week 1. Could still mean that the Ravens maybe don't give him a full workload right away. I think that's fair to speculate. Maybe Dobbins doesn't see 80% of the backfield work week 1 as they work him back from this injury. But Dobbins' tweet, I just think, is a good reminder. Don't automatically. It would have been really easy for us, for one of us, to throw a short out real quickly right after the Ian Rappaport news and just say, go get Gus Edwards. Mike Davis looks like a solid, no risk investment at the end of drafts. Tyler Batty, keep an eye on him. Like, it would have been really easy to do that. But guess what? Like you said, within the hour, it would have looked like a silly thing to put out, because Dobbins himself declared, I intend to be ready week 1. So basically, don't overreact to offseason headlines, especially when from the source themselves, the player who we're talking about comes out and declares, I'm going to be ready. Like, if he had said nothing, then maybe it's a little more telling 24 hours later, but he was quick to basically squash that. So it's just a good reminder. Don't necessarily feel like you need to have a reaction right away. Everybody wants to be first when it comes to having a reaction to something. You can look silly a short while later if that's the way you choose to go.
Now, you do have to factor in that this was a player coming out and saying, hey, I'm going to be fine for my injury. Lots of times players come out and do that. Robert Woods came out and said, hey, I feel really, really good in my ACL, in my recovery from my ACL. Do we expect him to be ready week 1 after he got injured, week 10, week 9? I don't know. But J.K. Dobbins got injured before the season.
Preseason.
It was the preseason. So he has had 6 months on some of these guys who are coming back from ACL injuries. Now, his injury was a little bit more involved.
It was a serious one, yeah.
But he has the timeline, and Gus Edwards, both of them have the timelines to be probably back to at least 85% of the way there. And that, to me, means they are going to see the field week 1. But you do have to, I don't know if temper your expectations is the right term, but you do have to keep in mind that it is the player talking about themselves, and of course the player is going to be more optimistic than sometimes the team.
Sure.
But then you can flip that on its head and say the team is being more cautious than they probably need to be, putting out a report like that and giving it to Ian Rappaport, depending on whatever his source is. So
or
you kind of have to
that
play,
came from, yeah.
Right. You kind of have to see the, what is it? The field through the trees, or whatever that stupid, the forest through the trees there.
The forest through the trees. Yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah. When you hear reports like that, but look at the facts. He is more than 12 months removed from, or will be more than 12 months removed by the time week 1 hits from the injury. And he didn't elect to not. Did he elect to not get surgery, or did he get surgery?
I mean, for an ACL tear, you have to have surgery.
I don't know what the weird recoveries out there. Regardless, he should be.
I'll look it up.
He should be fine. He might not be 100% of the way back, but he'll be close, and he'll probably be on the field. Considering I feel like they kind of need him.
Yeah, so he did have surgery at the beginning of September, so shortly after the injury did occur.
There you go.
So that did happen. I think the way ACL surgery works, if I'm remembering it correctly, there's a ligament in like your elbow that is kind of useless. It doesn't really do a whole lot, and they take it and they put it in and then that's kind of how they repair the ligament. They pull one from your elbow. I think I'm not a doctor, so if somebody can, if somebody wants to check me on that, by all means feel free, but I feel like that's what I've seen in the past. That's the procedure that needs to happen for a torn ACL. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Anyway, all this
to say, I think Will's right. I think Dobbins is going to be ready.
I think he'll be ready.
I don't think we have to really worry about it. He might be on a pitch count.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think there's a difference. Now, for fantasy purposes, there is a difference between being ready and being productive from a fantasy perspective to the point where you can fire him up week 1. Yeah. If you're in a bare bones situation and you just don't have running back depth, you might have to suck it up and play him. But it wouldn't be a surprise if he only got 40 to 50% of the work, maybe 60 to 65% of the snaps week 1 as they ease him back in. Like you said, out of an abundance of caution, the team is probably going to not give him all the work he can handle right away. The Ravens can probably, you can never assume anything, but they can probably afford to wait a little bit in that regard to give Dobbins more of a full workload, ramp him up in the second half of the season when they actually need him, when it's time to start getting in a rhythm and in a groove as the playoffs approach. So maybe the first couple of weeks, like you said, temper expectations for Dobbins. Maybe by week 3 or 4 is when it's like, okay, now I'm hoping for that RB2 upside, or with the potential for an RB1 week here and there from him. I think that's a more realistic, more fair timeline. But if we're sitting here and expecting like Gus Edwards, Mike Davis, and Tyler Batty are going to split the work between the 3 of them week 1, sounds like that might have been a premature expectation.
I would expect them all to mix in a little bit more. If you remember last year, to open up the season, there was kind of a even splitting of work between Tyson Williams and I think was Le'Veon Bell on the team yet?
It was Latavius Murray
and Devonta
Bell and Devonta Freeman. I think we're still on the practice squad to start the season, but then obviously by I don't feel like week 4 or 5, Freeman was called up and Bell came up for a cup of coffee, and you know how that all the rest is history. The Ravens had a
So the team might play games
in
that manner a little bit week
Sure.
1, but the cream rises to the top, and J.K. Dobbins will be the primary ball carrier probably by week 3.
I would say week 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I would say week 3 or week 4.
Yeah, but he will be ready week 1. You're gonna have to keep an eye on the workload.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So kind of seeing the forest through the trees as it pertains to off-season headlines.
Forest.
Lots of trees, Anyway,
Rojo thinks Kenyon Drake is gonna get traded.
To me, I love transactions like trades. They're super fun. The first thing you think of is what's the fallout from it. I always am like, who's going to trade for a running back unless there's an injury? And Kenyon Drake got some good money from the Raiders. More and more teams are not wanting to solicit that much of their cap to the running back position, which I hate for the running backs, but you understand it from the perspective of the team. Could he get traded? Sure. I guess, does the team love Zamir White? Do they want to play Zamir White as the backup right away?
I just don't think it's going to happen because Josh McDaniels comes from that New England Patriots system and way of thinking, and they have always rostered a bunch of running backs. They brought in Brandon Bolden. They have, yes, Josh Jacobs and Zamir White, but they don't have a clear-cut passing down option like Kenyon Drake. I think they're going to keep him, and I think they're going to roll with an ugly committee of probably 4 backs. Not all of them are going to see the field all the time. I mean, Brandon Bolden probably won't see the field all the time.
He's a special teamer.
But he might, be in on a drive here and there where you're just thinking, why is Brandon Bolden in there? Just like Brandon Bolden always is.
Right.
And
Kenyon Drake, guys here and there.
Right. Kenyon Drake might be their de facto James White back. And you might have drives in there where it's just like, why isn't Josh Jacobs in there?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Kenyon Drake is going to stick on the team this year. I don't think he's going to be traded. But stranger things have happened, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if they determine that they can move forward without him, then yeah, maybe they find a partner. But it's also an injury, or it's a position with high injury risk. So it's nice to have that depth because
look at the Ravens. We just got finished talking about the Ravens. They had their 3 running backs in their depth chart.
All 3 guys went down.
Right. That's not going to happen. Most likely to the Raiders, but
they'd love to have a Kenyon Drake on the roster in that situation, because then at least there's a guy where it's like, well, we can give this guy 20 touches. We know he can do it, or he can handle it. How effectively, it's, that might be a different conversation, but yeah. The injury rate for running backs is basically 100%. So,
and Zamir White might just be redshirted his first year, like again Bill Belichick has done throughout, pretty much
the entire disciple.
The decade. So we might be looking at a situation like that too. So I don't envision Drake being moved, but I did see the reports of him being healthy today. So we'll see how that situation shakes out.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, he's a solid player. I feel like he's going completely undrafted on Underdog Fantasy. So if you ever wanted to if you want to take a shot on a guy who does, he's proven to be productive in the past, and now he's just completely off the radar because he missed the second half of the season due to injury, coinciding with the Zamir White selection. Could be good free, a good free RB 5 or 6 for your best ball teams. Something to keep in mind. As for anything else about Kenyon Drake,
I'm just right now he's not a cut casualty candidate.
Not with that contract.
Yeah, I mean, it would be basically an average of $4 million in dead cap over the next 2 seasons with 0 cap savings.
They don't want that.
So that's not he's not getting cut. If anything, it would be a trade, and I just don't know if I can predict a trade. But again, stranger things. So we'll see.
What the trade that the trade that could be good or beneficial is the one that you make in your dynasty league where you acquire him for a 4th round pick if you could use some running back depth. You know, he's fallen off the face of the earth as far as,
and he's playing on a good offense.
Right, it's a solid offense. He's 28, so obviously it's like, but you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into I'm only grabbing running backs who are 24 or younger. Sometimes you got to fill things out with veterans, especially if you're a contender. So yeah, maybe kick the tires if you could use some running back depth on whoever has Drake. See what they would they take a late 3rd round pick for him? He should have a role for this Raiders offense, a good Raiders offense. So yeah, something to think about. You want to move to Leonard Fournette?
Yeah, why not? Will brings us to the next player in line here, and that is Leonard Fournette. Lenny going into that Eddie Lacy diet plan.
Yeah, well, okay, so yeah, apparently. I almost said Eddie Lacy. Leonard Fournette, as you know, he was reported as being heavy in mandatory minicamp. Rick Stroud, he's a Bucs beat reporter, said he spoke with one of the coaches. The line of thinking there was Fournette was reported to be 240 pounds in minicamp. He played at 228 pounds during the season. Sounded like he looked more like he was in the 250-pound range. The coach, who was anonymous, said he weighed more than that. So now it's speculated that Leonard Fournette had ballooned up to like 260 pounds. And there was a lot of reaction to that on social media because Leonard Fournette was 32 pounds over his playing weight from last year. And he's already a bigger back to begin with.
Right.
And he's put on 30 pounds of, we don't know if it's muscle or not. So now the initial gut reaction is to say, well, fade Leonard Fournette because he's fat Lenny. Again, it's an off-season byline that raises a flag for sure. It's not nothing. You don't want to see a running back is playing 30 pounds over what they normally play as, especially when, Fournette's getting older now. What is he, 27? And so does he lose some of the speed that he has, which he was never really that fast of a running back to begin with.
Right.
So what are the concerns there? I would say feels like a situation where, maybe he's overweight now, but again, we still have a month and a half until the season starts. And the amount of weight I can only imagine that a player can easily lose from the rigors of training camp, it's probably not that hard to lose like 15 pounds over the course of, 3 or 4 days out in the heat. Just running 2-a-days all the time, even though practices have been scaled back.
I'm going to even factor in, you're on a team with Tom Brady, who brings his TB12 fitness plan, and he has all that, and he brought in Leonard Fournette specifically, and it seems to have a great rapport with them. So if there's anybody that can get Leonard Fournette back on the straight and narrow, it would be Tom Brady. And yes, there's the 3-a-days or 2-a-days or whatever they're doing now, combined with the fitness plan, but also the Tom Brady diet plan too. So that I'm sure that comes with it as well. So I mean, your camera just turned off.
Turned off. God damn it.
But yeah, I'm not too worried. If he comes into the 3rd preseason game and he still looks considerably overweight, then we can start talking about Eddie Lacy comparisons and Rachaad White being maybe the pseudo number 1 back here, and that type of line of thought. But until that happens, I think I'm willing to give Leonard Fournette the benefit of the doubt, considering they did lock him up for a few years. He is signed there for another 3 seasons.
I'm not worried about Fournette. This is just another piece of information or news that is going to get a rise out of people that I think is a nothing burger at while in the doldrums of July. but where we haven't even, the players haven't even reported to training camp yet. So we had Fournette, or you had Fournette ranked as a low end RB1. I had him ranked as my RB13. So he was my highest RB2. I'm not bumping him down. I'm just not. This does not, wake me up in, a month from now if this is still the report. If it's like August 15th or whatever, and it's like Leonard Fournette still weighs 260 pounds. Yeah, okay. Then then it's time to be concerned. But if it's August 15th and now he's down to 250 and he's clearly trending back in the direction of the playing weight that he normally plays at, now it's like, okay, great. We spent a bunch of time talking about something that never really needed to be talked about. So these are the types of offseason headlines that you take with a grain of salt. You worry about it a month from now, not in July when players haven't even reported for training camp.
And just one last point, the value that we put on Leonard Fournette didn't really have a lot to do with him running the ball. He wasn't a guy that we were projecting to have a ton of breakaway runs in the open field. The reasons why that we were looking at Leonard Fournette was because from week 10 on, he had target totals of 9, 6, 8, 8, 7, 7, and 9. He was awesome. Heavily utilized in the pass game.
Yeah. And that's
so I'm not could he come in a little bit slow still? Okay. If he continues to garner around 8 targets a game from Tom Brady, probably even more considering the lack of pass catchers they're going to be dealing with. And again, over those last slate of games, they didn't have Godwin, so that's a good snapshot of what you should be looking at for Leonard Fournette from a target perspective without Godwin. Around 8 targets a game. I'm fine if Lenny's 5 pounds overweight by that time and still getting 8 targets a game. I'm cool.
Oh, yeah. He could be 15 pounds overweight at that point. If he's catching a bunch of 4-yard dump-offs, that'll add up eventually.
Yep. In those PPR formats, it almost doesn't matter to me.
Yep. Yeah. I'll take him in the 3rd round if he slides because everybody's concerned about mid-July, 260-pound Leonard Fournette. Not concerned. Not concerned at all. Wake me up in August if the headline is the same. So not too worried about that. Not too worried about Lenny. Not worried about Dobbins from an availability perspective. Just it's always good to take those off-season headlines with a grain of salt. So that's Fournette. Rojo, the top 4 second-round picks. Well, I saw Breece Hall is finalizing his contract with the Jets today. Who were the top 4 second-round picks? Was that like Pickens? I need a refresher on those names.
I'm blanking myself, but Alec Pierce was he a second rounder? Was Tyquan Thornton a second? He was a second rounder, right? I don't know if they were top 4 guys, but
was Christian Watson?
Yeah, he would be in there.
Christian Watson's not signed yet. Okay. And Breece was the 4th pick of the second round, so that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Breece was in the building today. This was a sleeper update that he was finalizing his contract with the Jets today. Sounds like that's getting done if it's not done already. I haven't seen anything about Christian Watson and his contract. That's a little concerning.
Kenneth Walker is in there, and so is Wan'Dale Robinson. I think I saw a report that Wan'Dale was going to be signing.
Okay.
I'm not too worried about all that. They'll get it figured out.
They'll all get it sorted out. I guess with Watson, the only thing with Watson is he has been billed as such a project. You would want to hear that type of stuff. This is one of those off-field things for a young player who is looking to build any type of rapport or connection with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense. You want to hear that type of stuff is wrapped up quickly. The Packers strike me as an organization where it's like if there's a contract dispute with a young guy, that guy is now behind the 8 ball. And they will opt for the veterans or the rookies who are signed, like Romeo, and Watson maybe gets pushed down the pecking order a little bit. I'm not saying that that's definitely the case. It's just like the Packers feel like an old school franchise to me, and not that that's a bad thing. They've had plenty of success with their approach and the way they do things. Just
and it's
maybe
kind of
I'm a little worried about Watson.
It's kind of a weird situation to peg because he's coming in, wasn't thought of to be a guy who was going to be a number one wide receiver in an offense, but now he's probably coming in negotiating for terms on his contract, thinking, hey, y'all signed me, y'all drafted me to be your number one wide receiver. So I mean, there's probably some give and take there on both sides that needs to be made, but in order for progress to be made. But it is an interesting tidbit. I don't know how much I'm reading into it because, again, their concentration might just be 100% on football and not really on the contracts. I don't know. Maybe it's their agent. I don't know. So I'm not willing to really go out on a limb there. But it is an interesting tidbit.
You want to, I mean, at the end of the day, I would want to see the rookie. I would want to see rookies out there day one with and that type of stuff is behind them. That's all.
Yes, I agree. I agree. In a vacuum, I agree.
But Romeo, wide receiver 1, you already know, Hunter. Alex, what's going on? He's asking, do we fade Albert O? So let's just keep rolling down this list of off-season headlines. This one is quite straightforward, and I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, saw this yesterday. Broncos rookie tight end Greg Dulcich has been impressing in training or has been impressing in workouts and mini camps and all that, and reportedly has been used as the primary pass catcher at the position so far this summer. Not Albert O. So again, this little tidbit dropped yesterday. Dulcich was a 4th round pick, right? Was it or 3rd round?
Yes.
Okay. So he was a day 2 pick, maybe a day.
No, I think 4th round. I said yes on.
So he was a day 3 pick. Look, we can't, and we do say all the time that tight ends have a steep learning curve in the NFL, and it's easy to, from that perspective, write off young players.
He was in the 3rd round. I'm sorry, I'm mixing things up.
Okay,
he
so
was selected in the 3rd round. Yep.
Okay. What I was saying is that it's easy to be not concerned, but it's easy to write off young and specifically rookie tight ends because there is a steep learning curve at the position. You're asked to do so much. If that's great, if Dulcich can catch the ball, can he inline block? If he can't do that yet at the NFL level or on a consistent enough basis, it's going to be difficult for him to get on the field. Now, if he can, if he's learning, if it's like this guy just knows what he's doing out there, then the Broncos will play 12 personnel and put them both out there. Does he supplant Albert O as their starter? That remains to be seen. I would think Albert O's still got the inside track just from the perspective of being the veteran. His athletic profile checks out. It's not like he's the starter in a great situation, but the athletic profile stinks. That's not the case, right?
Right.
So, our what's the word I'm thinking? Our resident tight end expert over here, John. John definitely likes doing his deep dives on tight ends. I guess I'll pitch it to you. What is your thought process here as somebody who has liked Albert O throughout this preseason or throughout this offseason? Hearing this little piece of news that Dulcich has been so far featured as the pass catching option at the position for the Broncos.
Now, I've been one to kind of shoot down the Greg Dulcich hype over the course of the past 6 months, over the course of the 2022 pre-draft and draft process. Not that I don't believe he can't or can be a bona fide starting tight end in the league. I just think, with all tight ends, it takes usually around 3 years for them to get acclimated to the game and really produce. And he was not a guy with an elite relative athletic score at the position, which is a metric that, if y'all been watching this channel, y'all know I pay attention to a lot. Probably too much. Drink. But I mean, both of these tight ends are coming in with no rapport with their quarterback, no rapport with their starting quarterback. Yes, the organization knows a little bit more about Albert O and felt comfortable enough divesting themselves of Noah Fant and promoting Albert O to make that whole transaction and bringing in Russell Wilson in the first place. my inclination is to still think that Alberto is the starting tight end for the Denver Broncos.
Oh,
but there were times last year in the year before last year where Alberto was getting significant snaps with the starters, even though Noah Fant was the de facto number one tight end for the team. So this is clearly a team that likes to utilize two tight ends. We've seen offenses go in that direction to utilize two tight ends in the offense, in the game plan, on a week-to-week basis in the past. I mean, do I need to mention the Patriots of the early 2010s? I don't think that's this situation. I think this situation is more of a, Alberto is the 1A, and, we can expect him to get around 700 yards and maybe 5 to 8 touchdowns. And then Greg Dulcich can be a 300-yard tight end in his year one with maybe 3 to 4 touchdowns in his own right. I think that is going to be the case. I think we're basically switching the roles that Noah Fant and Alberto had last year into Alberto being the new Noah Fant and Greg Dulcich being the new Alberto. Alberto's still the tight end to have in this offense. Alberto still has top 12 upside at the tight end position in this offense. I don't think Greg Dulcich does. I think this is a little bit of off-season hype. Maybe just getting Greg Dulcich up to speed a little bit more because they have faith in what Alberto already brings to the table. This is not to say that Greg Dulcich isn't going to be a good pro and can't come out the gates pretty hot. I just still think that Alberto is the tight end to own in the Denver Broncos offense.
So you're not fading him, if anything, from this. You're maybe hoping that he fades from, the community fades him, the consensus fades him, and then you get an opportunity to pounce on a lower ADP.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just like I said, it's so difficult to put any type of expectations, especially from a fantasy production perspective, on rookie tight ends. We were lucky enough, I guess, last year to see 2 rookie tight ends perform at a high level, but that doesn't happen a whole lot. Kyle Pitts had 1,000 receiving yards. Pat Freiermuth caught 7 touchdowns. It's rare that not only 1 but 2 rookie tight ends hit from a tight end 1 points per game perspective. So I'm not necessarily expecting history to repeat itself.
Look at the draft class before the last draft class when we had one generational talent come in who's basically a wide receiver playing the tight end position, and another one get real lucky with his positive touchdowns that he got last year. Mm-hmm. The year before, it was, Cole Kmet, who we're still waiting for a breakout, Hunter Bryant, who didn't ever make an impact in the league after he dealt with some medical issues, Adam Troutman, who we're still waiting to break out. Alberto, who is in this conversation and should be breaking out in his 3rd season.
Yeah.
Harrison Bryant, who has yet to break out and is still behind David Njoku. Bryson Hopkins, who we saw a little bit in the Super Bowl last year because they didn't have Tyler Higbee, the Rams, but is still their number 2 tight end far and away with no real possibility of him being the number 1. And then we're talking about guys like Jared Pinkney and stuff like so. Like,
pump the brakes.
Greg Dulcich might be a real nice talent at the position, might be able to outperform the RAS that we're seeing him at right now, but expecting him to be what everybody saw from even Freiermuth last year is a little rich. And you can go into the year before, 2019. TJ Hawkinson had a great week 1 game and then didn't really do much his full first year. Noah Fant, elite RAS score, one of the best RAS scores over the past 5 years. He did come out the gates and was, a borderline top 12 option from the jump, I believe. Irv Smith took him a while. Yes, there were injuries, but took him a while. Jay Sternberger didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Caden Smith didn't do anything on the Giants.
No,
Dawson Knox took him 3 years. So it takes tight ends 3 years.
It takes
Do
time.
not expect Greg Dulcich to come out and be a tight end one out the gates.
Season. Yeah.
Alberto his contract is up in 2 years, which means in 3 seasons, Greg Dulcich has a chance to be the number 1. So I think the team was planning with that in mind.
So sell high on Dulcich right now in Dynasty, and then get him back on the cheap when he has a quiet rookie season.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Unless you got my boy Jelani Woods, and you should just hold him.
We're just gonna call that the John move. That's just the boomerang move in Dynasty, right? You just throw that shit out there, and then just catch it on the way back.
It's the boomerang.
When the momentum is when the momentum is back in his favor.
Yeah,
that's the boomerang. I'm calling that from now on. Sell high and then buy low the very next season. Just go get it back.
In 8 to 12 months. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So don't fade Alberto. If anything, buy low on him. If this creates a buy low window.
Yeah, if you have Dulcich and you can trade it out, Dulcich into an Alberto, and then trade for Dulcich for a third and a fourth next year. I mean, Go for it. Do it.
Do that because after a 300-yard one touchdown season, which
3
is
touchdowns.
much more.
Let's be generous, but yeah.
I mean, it's not a knock on him. It's just the fact that rookie tight ends, you can't possibly have expectations for them from a fantasy perspective year one. Last year was an outlier, not the norm.
We could have a few years of some really good tight end production out the gates over the next 2 seasons, but that is a discussion for another time.
Yep, absolutely. Rojo, appreciate the kind words as always, Rojo. Man. If you guys could drop a like, we won't beg, but we do appreciate it. That maybe gets a few more people in here. We can keep this conversation going because that's what we absolutely love to do.
The algorithm loves it. The YouTube gods love it. So we would appreciate it for sure.
So yeah, we appreciate it. CXK, thanks for stopping in. He's playing a super flex league. This looks like he's giving up Trey Lance to get Wilson Higgins, a 2023 first. Or Wilson and 2 2023 firsts.
I would rather Wilson Higgins than the 2023
first.
Yeah,
if I'm getting Higgins and the first round pick plus a guy, I love Trey Lance this year. I'm bullish on Trey Lance. I have him as my QB7 on the season, but if you saw my the draft plan's not quite out yet for everybody. Sorry about that. You will see it eventually. Zach Wilson is a late round target that I like. Just a nice little early tidbit on the draft plan. Wilson is a guy that I am interested in, not just this season, but moving forward. So to get a bona fide wide receiver, low-end wide receiver 1 in T. Higgins, and a first-round pick next year, I'm taking that package.
If there's
I'm taking that
way to win when trading away Trey Lance, that's the way to win.
That's the way.
That's the way to win.
That's the way. I don't care who your other receivers are. You're getting you're in a super flex league. You're still getting a quarterback in return. I think he's 23, and I think he turned 23 this year already. I think he did. Yes, Higgins is 23, and he turned 23. I think his birthday is in January. I want to say. It doesn't. Why is it not popping up right away?
And there were large stretches of last season where T. Higgins was performing better on a per-game basis than Jamar Chase.
Yeah, he's a damn good player.
He played with a great quarterback who should be even better this year. Plus, you're getting the 23 first, and you're getting a young quarterback back who was drafted a year after Trey Lance, so you're technically staying pretty young at the position yourself.
Staying young. Yep.
Yeah, I would go that route. I mean, the 222 3/3 sounds nice, but I would rather have the bona fide, because Higgins costs more than a 23 first. So you just got to think about it that way. So yeah, yes. I would press yes on that trade right now.
Yep, and he will be 23 for the rest of the calendar year. He turned 23 back in January. So Higgins is a young stud. There aren't too many other wide receivers from a dynasty perspective that are better long-term investments. there are very few. So, yeah, if that offer is on the table, CXK, take it. Absolutely take it. Wilson, Higgins, 23 first for Trey Lance. Absolutely. Let's move right down the list. And we do have a good amount of comments and questions in the chat. We will get to every single one. So do not worry. If you have a question or a comment, if you see where we are in the chat and you're thinking, damn, they got a lot to get through, drop it in. We will get to it eventually. It might take some time, but we will get to it. Hunter.
And just so you know, if you are new to the stream, we do this twice a week, 3 times a week if you're a member, and we will continue this into the regular season. Last year we did live streams on Saturday nights for a good 2.5 to 3 hours, and Sunday mornings for a good 3 hours from 10 a.m. up until kickoff. So bookmark this channel if you're interested in getting up to your questions answered. Come when it counts. So, yeah, just throwing that out there. But continue.
Let's get to Hunter's question or comment. He traded away CMC earlier this year, and now he's wondering, should I go back and get him? Depending on what you're willing to give up, Hunter, I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what it's going to take. I assume his value, or not assume, McCaffrey's value has gone up since you traded him away. So this could be a scenario where you're going to have to give up more than you got to get him back. So I don't know how willing you are to do that. That being said, I am not going to talk you out of it, because as easy as it was to be concerned about McCaffrey's long-term availability after he suffered yet another injury in the middle of the season last year, I'm all the way back in on taking a swing for the fences on the only guy who can average 30 fantasy points per game in the NFL, and that's Christian McCaffrey.
In a down year last year, supremely down year for him last year, where he was vultured by 5 touchdowns in 4 games in the beginning of the season by his quarterback. He was still 18.2 in fantasy points per game. Still one of the league leaders in fantasy points per game. He just didn't play the full season.
Yep.
But his efficiency numbers are still elite, still top of the line. So I'm not going to talk you out of trading for him right now either. You might have to give up a little bit more than you gave away, sure. But if you're happy or okay with the pieces you're trading away, if you're okay with divesting yourself of that, then go for it, for sure.
If you're looking at your team and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I'm a contender, like I can win, and you need to give up, a couple of first-round picks to acquire Christian McCaffrey, probably need to give up a little bit more than that on top of it. But if you're looking at your team and it's like, if I have Christian McCaffrey, all of a sudden I feel like I have a top 3, maybe top 2 team in the league. Do it. I'm not going to tell you no.
He will win you the weeks where he is healthy and in your lineup. Straight up.
Yeah. He will get you maybe half of your team's points.
Yeah.
Or a third of them.
He's done that before.
He has done that. He's a monster.
Yeah.
He's a monster. So, yeah. If you feel like your team is top 3 contention, or maybe you're like top 4 or 5 right now, and you're thinking to yourself, McCaffrey catapults me above a couple of teams if I get him, go get him. Trade for him. I don't care about a couple of first-round picks if I win the league.
No.
If I feel like I've got the roster,
take those couple of first-round picks to the bank.
Yeah. And go get the guy who is he remains the cheat code at the running back position.
And New Jeru's, good to see you, man. Nice to have you back in here.
What's going on? Thanks.
Nemo ladies. That's Slim's new.
That is Slim's new. I like it. But thank you for the appreciate the kind words, New Jerusalem. Thank you. Yeah, it had to happen, but it did happen. Slim, I am not responsible for anything that happens in our mock drafts. But I appreciate that a rivalry is already building.
Just to be real, Nemo sniped the hell out of me like eight times last live stream.
I look forward to the trash talk
don't even listen to him. Do not even listen to him. It's actually him that's doing all the sniping of me now because we've mock drafted so many times together.
Well, I look forward to the time where we do it for real, and then we get to actually see some trash talk between y'all.
Absolutely.
Should be funny.
Iron, good to see you. What's going on,
What's up, Iron? Iron's been grappling with some trades in the Discord, which, by the way, speaking of, if you are new to this stream or checking us out for the first time, if you care to keep this conversation going when we are done, there is a link to our Discord. It is the second link in the description of this video. You can pop on in there, and if you ever have any questions or things you just want to talk about, well, that's what the Discord is for. So Iron's been talking about he's got some offers for Gibson. He's been grappling with it. I've ultimately said to stay put. I think he had a Gibson for Russell Wilson offer but it was one quarterback, and he already has Jalen Hurts. So I said no, don't do that.
Yeah, in that situation, with knowing that you already have Jalen Hurts, you might not ever start Russell Wilson, considering it's one QB. Even if you're getting Rachaad White back. I mean, I think Gibson's younger than Rachaad White. Or they're the same age. I think they're the same age, if anything.
Gibson's 24.
Rachaad White's 23 and will be 24 halfway through the year. So you're talking about, saving a discount of 6 months.
Yeah, Gibson's not much older.
And I'd rather have the guy that has finished running back 10 in a down year, injury-plagued year for him, than a guy that could supplant Leonard Fournette when he's 25 going on 26.
And could be replaced by somebody else.
Right.
Or the backfield they add to the backfield, and he's all of a sudden not as appealing as you were maybe hoping he would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anything,
and your QBs are Hurts and Fields. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm holding on to AG.
Yeah. If I will say this for anybody, if you're grappling with Antonio Gibson because his stock is down right now, which I have been adamant, I don't really understand why. They added Brian Robinson in the 5th round, who's a good player, but Gibson battled basically a broken shin last year and finished as a low-end RB1 in fantasy points per game.
Is Brian Robinson a good player?
Yeah, I think he's solid, but let's put it this way. This is like I mentioned this in the Discord. This is not a 1A, 1B situation. Antonio Gibson is the guy. If you have him, do nothing. Because if it's this is a buy low window for Antonio Gibson with the way his stock is right now. If you don't have Antonio Gibson and the person in your league who does have Antonio Gibson is concerned the same way that the consensus is for whatever reason, then go get him. Go acquire Antonio Gibson because his stock is down right now for reasons I can't explain. And it might be the lowest his stock might be the lowest that it is for the next 3 or 4 years.
And just
go get him.
Just a little Brian Robinson shade. He had his breakout season last year as a 5th-year senior. And he had 1,300 plus yards and 16 total touchdowns on Alabama. It was a high-profile year for him. But he was 22 years old when he did that, playing against 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And it took him until that 2021 season to do that. Prior to that, his high water mark was 483 yards. His high touchdown mark was 6 touchdowns, which isn't bad by any means, but it isn't great. And yes, it was at Alabama in 2021, but a 5.0 yards per carry average for highly touted college running backs, usually it's in the 6s. And then when they hit the NFL, it drops down to, 4 because they're playing with much better competition all over the field.
Yeah, they're playing the best of the best.
And they're not playing with guys that are head and shoulders above everybody else, which is usually what Alabama is playing with. I'm not a huge Brian Robinson fan. I really think he is a guy who will get you the yards that are ahead of you based on the blocking and nothing else. I think he is literally the definition of just a guy from the running back position. So with that in mind, I really don't get this Antonio Gibson shade that's been going on in the fantasy community. I really don't get it because Brian Robinson is just a guy.
Yeah, I have Gibson in best ball everywhere because I don't. His ADP has plummeted. I've gotten him in the 80s.
I think it has to do more with Carson Wentz being the quarterback than even Brian Robinson being there, and even that correlation doesn't make sense.
No, because look what Carson Wentz's running back last year was Jonathan Taylor. So like
exactly, and he's going to be put in the best scoring position based on the quarterback that he's playing with that he's ever had. And he's probably going to have the best wide receiver core that he's ever been playing with, too. So he should be playing against less 8-man fronts.
Fewer 8-man boxes. Yep.
Right. I do not get the Antonio Gibson shade. And I don't get the Brian Robinson love. I don't.
Buy low. If you don't have him, hold and do nothing if you do. Because right now I don't think you're unlikely to see a trade offer for Gibson where it really is like, wow, I need to think about this because his value is down right now for reasons I don't understand. So yeah, hang on to Gibby there.
Yeah. Especially
in one quarterback when the offer is for a guy where it's like, I already have some dudes. Yeah. So hold Gibson. He's going to be just fine this year. I have no concerns.
Agreed.
Yeah, no concerns. The guy in that backfield I would be worried about is J.D. McKissic because Wentz can't throw short to running backs. And we saw Nyheim Hines have a down year last year.
Yeah.
McKissic would be the one where I'd be a little more leery of.
Gibson, I'm not worried about at all.
Not at all. New Jerusalem asks, is Khalil Herbert a must-have? No, I don't think he's a must-have.
He's a must-have throw-in to a deal. So if you have a deal pending with the Khalil Herbert owner and Khalil Herbert isn't involved in the deal, I would try to do everything I could to get Khalil Herbert involved in the deal, especially if I do have a David Montgomery on my team. Is he a must-have? No, he's not quite Kenny Gainwell for me. Kenny Gainwell to me, if you were paying attention on last Thursday's stream, he's kind of reaching must-have territory for me. Khalil Herbert is not. But in the games that David Montgomery missed, Week 6 against Green Bay, Khalil Herbert had 19.2 fantasy points. Week 7 against Tampa Bay, Khalil Herbert had 18.3 fantasy points. Now, the following week, he had an 82% snap share against San Fran, only put up 8.8 fantasy points. But still, I mean, I like Khalil Herbert. If anything happens to David Montgomery, he's going to get the majority of the work.
Yep.
He's a must-have throw-in for me. He's not a must-have.
That's fair. That's fair. That I can get on board with, but I wouldn't say go out of your definitely spend a second round pick to just go grab Khalil Herbert or something like that.
Yeah.
But sure, as a throw in,
if you have a third round pick that's burning a hole in your pocket and you just want him, sure. If you can give like a third or fourth for him, sure.
Yeah. If you've got a deal on the table and it's like, yeah, throw in Khalil Herbert, on top of what I'm already giving you, I'll throw in a third round pick to get Khalil Herbert. Then it's like, yeah, sure, fine. But if it's just someone comes at you and says, give me your second round pick, I'll give you Khalil Herbert. Then I'm like, and I don't have David Montgomery. Then it's like, no, why would I do that? He's a solid player, but when Montgomery was healthy last year, Herbert became an afterthought. Now, does that stay the same just because that was the case last year? No, not necessarily, especially with a new coaching staff. But this isn't a Bears offense where it's like I have to have any one of these guys. I like Justin Fields. I like Darnell Mooney. I think David Montgomery is a solid depth play at running back. I'm not head over heels to get any one of them specifically. Maybe especially his stock is high right now.
The guy that I'm head over heels to get in the Bears offense is the wide receiver one that they're going to be drafting next year. Because I think it's going to be a Kayshon Boutte or a Jordan Addison or a Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think it's going to be one of those guys.
They might be in a position to get Smith and Jigba.
I think they will.
They might be in position.
The Bears player that I am hyped to get, that is a must-have for me to get, is the wide receiver one that they're going to draft next season.
Yeah.
Nobody this year.
Relink up Ohio State product with Justin Fields.
Yeah, makes sense.
Not that there wasn't a ton of overlap, I think, but if any, but the Bears might be in a position to draft Smith and Jigba next year,
or a Kayshon Boutte, or a Jordan Addison, any of those guys.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think that's that's a solid strategy. Try to include him in a deal that is part of a larger package.
And Hunter, yeah man, that's a good point on Fournette. It is.
Yeah, he's a bigger player. He's solidly fast for his size.
Lose
he's
15 pounds and you're good. You can do that in a month and a half.
Yeah, in an NFL training camp.
He's probably well on his way to doing that.
Weight loss is not
the weight report was based on when he reported. It wasn't as of right now. He's probably, he's probably lost 10 pounds already.
Yeah, right. We're talking about he was 260 pounds in June. So now you're talking about like 3 months before the season. It's like not worried about Leonard Fournette.
No, not at all.
Not worried about Leonard Fournette.
Johnny Jones, what's happening, man?
What's up, Johnny? Drake's case. I know Rojo asked or mentioned he thinks Drake might get traded. I mean, last year did Drake tear his ACL?
I believe so, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to go back
and
check.
Broken ankle. Broken ankle. That's what it was. Which is not the same concern as a torn ACL. Drake should be ready. This is the difference between.
The report was that he was like fully ready already.
Yeah, with a broken bone, it looks worse on camera if you actually see it unfold. But those injuries are
easier to
quote unquote easier to come back from, quote unquote. It's obviously every case is different, but broken bones are not the same as ligament tears. The recovery is quicker, generally speaking. So yeah, Drake shouldn't have any issues as far as his not even just week 1 availability, but training camp availability. He should be fine.
Now the case we were making for Drake, I think Rojo said that he thought he was going to be traded. We kind of put a damper on that because of the coaching staff that he's dealing with there. And Josh McDaniels has those Bill Belichick ties, and Bill Belichick has always run a multiple running back system. So we just think with the contract that Drake is on, being prohibitive to just being cut, and with the fact that Josh McDaniels probably would like to have a stable of running backs in Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, Zamir White, Brandon Bolden, we think that Drake is probably staying put. But he is 100% healthy by all reports.
Yep.
And
he should be full go.
Nemo, you just being disrespectful now.
I appreciate budding rivalries. That's all.
Oh man, now it makes it fun. It's just he was sniping me from 9 picks away too. He was on the other side of the draft board.
That's rude.
And he was still sniping me. I think he was doing it. He was searching for players that I liked too. He was
going
just
out of his way.
overdrafting dudes, and then I had to get him back and start overdrafting dudes by 2 or 3 rounds in a mock draft just to make sure that he wasn't getting my Kenny Gainwell, make sure that he wasn't getting my Robert Tonyan.
You're gonna be looking at your real teams and being like, I hate this squad.
For real. Slim, you're making this interesting, man. I like it. I like it.
Just drafting out of spite.
I want all the smoke, man. Come on.
You don't think I'll draft Jelani Woods in the 6th round? That's cool. Watch this.
For real, he took Mo Alley Cox, and then took Jelani Woods right after. It was like, I know what you're doing, Nemo. I know what you're doing, man. Johnny Jones. Fournette wasn't insanely fast for his size, so you make a good point there.
Yeah, we're good on Lenny. Continue to draft Lenny, especially if his ADP falls.
Yeah.
The fifth. Okay, Rojo. So there's like a holdup because the guy drafted after these top 4 got an extra year guaranteed. So, all right. I mean, that is something to keep an eye on, though, as we approach training camp. You don't want rookies, especially projects like Christian Watson, missing valuable time at the start of training camp because there's a contract dispute about the final guaranteed year. Like that's something where it's like when you start to hear that, it's like, uh-oh.
Right
now he's behind the 8 ball. All of a sudden he's missing valuable practice time, and it's Romeo Dubs, wide receiver 1 season.
Dub season.
Jameis
loves it. I kind of eating them dubs.
Yeah, he loves eating W's. Crab legs, Jameis.
12 personnel would be tough in Denver, considering the 3 wide sets that they can run with wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean,
and the 2 running backs that they have. So I just don't know how many 2 touchdown sets they're going to be running with the personnel that they have. They could, but I think it's more of a spelling situation than it is a have them both out on the field at the same time situation.
Yeah, look, if Dulcich is forcing the Broncos' hand, and it's like, this kid is way better than we expected, and we just have to get him on the field. I mean, fine. But then, that's going to come at the expense of Tim Patrick and maybe Jerry Jeudy. It might come at the expense of one or both of those guys. I have a hard time believing that that's something that they could go to it in a change of pace situation. I just think Jerry Jeudy is a former, not 2 years ago, the 15th overall pick in the draft, and Tim Patrick has caught 50 balls with terrible quarterback play each of the past 2 seasons. I just think you want those guys on the field.
Yeah, especially with Russell Wilson. Yeah.
Will 12 personnel be worked in over the course of the season? Sure, of course. But I got to imagine they want to run 11 personnel a little bit more frequently with the receivers that they have. So we'll see.
I'm just looking up real quick to see what the Denver Broncos position groupings were last year.
While you find that, Scott, thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it.
They ran 12 personnel 27% of the time last year.
Okay, so maybe that comes up to 33%, maybe a third of their plays because Dalton. But even then, they had Noah Fant and Alberto last year. But
I don't see it. I don't see it going up to Miami, where they were running 12 personnel 61% of the time last year, just to get Mike Gesicki out playing wide receiver, basically snaps.
You know what a better thing might be to look up though? How many times did the Packers run it last year? Because Nathaniel Hackett is the head coach now.
29.
That's where he comes from. The Packers ran it 29% of the time.
Yeah, compared to 27% of the time. So it's going to stay around the same, I believe.
And the Packers didn't have Tonyan for the entire season last year, so maybe they run it a little bit more this year because they have, assuming good health for Alberto and Dulcich.
Yeah.
But you're not talking about more than probably 30% of the time.
Good call on looking up the Packers. And the year before that, I think he was the coordinator the year before that too, for the Packers.
I think so.
They ran at 24% the year before that.
Okay. and that was when Tunyon was balling out.
Right.
And they still had, I think they still had Sternberger on the roster.
They still had Sternberger. I think they drafted Deguara that year. They probably had Mercedes Lewis that year still. So
yeah. So even with like a collection of guys, they weren't running it more than a quarter of the time.
Right.
So, yeah, I got to imagine Denver continues to operate with it with more 11 personnel than anything else. Their receivers are good enough where, you know, you don't want to take Tim Patrick off the field for Greg Dulcich. No disrespect to Dulcich, but his time is coming. It's not here yet. Scott shared some kind words. Appreciate that, man. Thanks for stopping in.
Scott.
If you got any questions, let us know.
Absolutely.
Josh and Joshua Little, thanks for coming in, Josh. Which wide receiver should you target in Jacksonville? Do you want to take this one? I can take this one. It doesn't matter. I think we're both on the same page here.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for both of us. It's Laviska Shenault, you know.
Yeah, something like that. Well, I haven't totally given up. I haven't totally given up on Laviska,
but it's Christian Kirk.
The answer is Christian Kirk.
It's Christian Kirk. And if you want to give one of the secondary wide receivers a shot, I think I would put Marvin Jones at the top of that list. You can get him for free, and he's done nothing but produce everywhere that he goes.
He's the only wide receiver on that team that can conceivably win on the outside. On any type of consistent basis. Christian Kirk's going to be their slot guy. Zay Jones might be the other starter on the outside, but
I could see it.
Yeah, but I'm not targeting Zay Jones.
But Zay Jones is a slot guy.
I think Zay Jones goes on the outside. He's a little bit bigger. They just don't have anybody else. Who else are they putting on the outside? You can't. I mean, I guess you can operate
Jamal Agnew running fly routes.
Yeah, okay. Now it's like, oh my God, this is what it's come to. We need to. I mean,
but really,
didn't flash a little bit last year, but Zay Jones.
It's Christian Kirk, and then if you want to punt the position, it's Marvin Jones.
Yeah, Marvin is the only one who is a bona fide, like, this guy's going to play on the outside for Jacksonville and therefore be a clear cut every down, every role player. Kirk should be as well, but I got to imagine he moves to the outside when they're trying to run the ball. Like, that's when he's going to play on the outside. So Marvin Jones is a guy who I definitely like. That being said, the answer is Christian Kirk because they paid him like a top 10 receiver. They have no choice but to pepper him with targets, with as much work as he could possibly handle. He got a 4-year, $72 million contract. That puts him on the Tyreek Hill threshold as far as money earned.
He's right in between Cooper Kupp and Kenny Golladay. But he's right behind Cooper Kupp and Keenan Allen in terms of...
You have to use him. You have to use Christian Kirk after you pay him all of that money. And in the 8th round, which is where his ADP is, that's not bad. If he was in the 5th round, then I'd be hammering yes, Marvin Jones all damn day. But Christian Kirk is still relatively affordable, despite the fact that he should be he should operate as the team's number one option, and with all the money he got paid, where you can get him 85 picks into a draft. This is a situation where I'm fine with target the number 1 guy, not the number 3 guy, 60 picks later. They have to pepper Christian Kirk with all the targets that he can handle. After you dole out a contract like that, it's got to be Kirk. Marvin Jones is not a target, but he's, he is the other option here. He is cheaper, probably by about 50 picks as far as ADP is concerned than Kirk. And like you mentioned, he had a decent season last year.
832 yards, most on the Jags team last year.
Yeah, he had a decent season. He didn't have a bad year last year. It just got overshadowed by the fact that Jacksonville had a ton of off-field turmoil, which will be erased this year with the new coaching staff.
10.6 fantasy points per game, and you can get him. What's his ADP right now? What's Marvin Jones' ADP right now? It's ADP right now. It's got to be pretty low.
I would, without looking it up, it's probably in like the 130 range. Let me see. Marvin Jones. No, wow, I was way off. 162.
There you go.
162. Yeah, so okay. Honestly, any one of these guys are viable. Kirk is fine in the 8th round because I do think he operates as their pseudo number 1 option. I think he's a threat to catch 90 balls this year. Marvin Jones offers another cost-effective option, so he's actually 70 to 80 picks cheaper than Kirk.
Yeah, you can get him in the 14th round.
That's stupid. He's better than that.
Yeah. 10.6 fantasy points per game last year, and his worst fantasy points per game since 2012. And that was a dumpster fire last year.
Yep.
The year before last year, 14.2 fantasy points per game, 14.9 fantasy points per game. Never going to be elite, but a very effective burner on the outside who
rock
you can
solid.
get an age discount on.
Yeah, just rock solid player.
Yeah.
I know he's like 32, 33 years old at this point, but there wasn't any signs
32.
of slowing down last year. It was just a bad offense, and he still put up.
We're in on
yards.
a bunch of 32-year-olds.
That's
Adam
fine.
Thielen, 32.
I'm all in on Adam Thielen this year.
So I'm not shying away from Marvin Jones in the 14th round. That might be.
No
I might have just talked myself into making Marvin Jones a target for me in Trevor Lawrence's 2nd year.
Yeah, right. In a year where Lawrence should improve,
and Marvin Jones isn't going to be the main focus of the defense. It's going to be Christian Kirk and Travis Etienne.
And Etienne, yeah. No, Marvin Jones is a good cost-effective option. I think I forgot to include him in my draft plan, so I'm gonna have to update that just to throw him in. But yeah, I mean, with an ADP of 160, it's hard to argue. There's no risk at that point in a proven fantasy producer in Marvin Jones. Is he the guy that we're advocating for now all of a sudden?
It's still Christian Kirk. I just think
I like both of them.
If you miss out on Kirk, because Christian Kirk isn't a secret.
No,
a lot of people know he's the number 1 target there for Trevor Lawrence moving forward because of the contract.
They're drafting him like he is.
Right. Then if you miss out on him, don't press the issue with any of these other guys. You can wait until the 14th round and pick up Marvin Jones.
Grab Marvin Jones with 150 picks into a draft.
Yep.
Yeah, either one should be viable. Either one should be solid. And Hunter's coming back for with the Christian McCaffrey trade potential.
What's the pick?
I mean, if it's a first, that's a lot to swallow. But you're
24 second, sure.
Yeah, even a 23 second.
You could talk me into that, sure.
Yeah, I would do that. I would. I mean, look, I know Derrick and Hunter. I'm pretty sure you're an advocate for Derrick Henry. I know you've been somebody where we've kind of pumped the brakes on him. You have kind of felt differently, which is fine. But yeah, if I can get Christian McCaffrey for Derrick Henry, and say like a 2nd round pick, those are dice that I would roll. That is something I would take a chance on. And McCaffrey, I think, is 2 years younger than Derrick Henry?
Yeah, McCaffrey's 26 and Henry is 28.
Okay. So you're not talking about any spring chickens at this point with these two guys, but
I'd much rather have McCaffrey.
I'd rather have McCaffrey. Henry is closer to Henry's workload on the ground is significant long-term question marks about that. And as far as long-term, I don't know how much more time Henry has left.
And I mean, considering that you're probably playing in some sort of PPR format league, McCaffrey gets the boost there for sure.
Yep, McCaffrey clears. Yeah, but I would do that. Let's see. Johnny's asking, does he give James Conner to get Elijah Moore in Dynasty?
Are you contending or are you rebuilding?
Yeah, that's the age-old question. Johnny? Like, if you're like, yo, I'm a contender, my receivers are solid, James Conner is going to, we hope is going to perform like an RB1 on a points per game basis once again, and he's certainly set up to do so. If you're looking at your situation and you're like, yeah, I'm a top 3, maybe even top 4 team in the league, I would probably not do that. But if you're anything where you're like kind of middle of the pack or worse, then it's almost like is the person that you're having the discussion with a contender? Because then see if you can squeeze a pick out of him.
I think if you're a contender, you hold. If you're trending towards a rebuild, you hold until week 3, week 4.
Hope he pops off for a few games.
And then, Elijah Moore has to deal with more target competition than he had when he was blowing up, and James Conner should blow up out the gate. So you should be able to get Elijah Moore. Plus, if James Conner is doing what we expect James Conner to be doing 3 weeks in, and he probably won't have picked up an injury by then, and you can get a little bit of a discount on Moore because he will be sharing the field with Corey Davis, who will demand targets, and Garrett Wilson, who will demand targets, and Ty Conklin, who will demand some sort of target share, and Breece Hall, who will demand some target and workload, and Michael Carter. So, and that's all. Leaving out what if Zach Wilson doesn't show the growth that Nick expects him to show in year 2? So I would just wait on a deal involving James Conner and Elijah Moore, because either way, I think you can get more from the owner by just sitting on James Conner until his value is highest, which is in season when he's putting up a touchdown a game.
Yeah, this is a time
without DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Look, it's so much fun to trade in Dynasty. John will support that.
It's one of my favorite things to do in the world. So,
but I
get you.
But I think this is a time of the offseason where it's smart to stand pat for now, because you could be trading away a player who prematurely, kind of like we just kind of talked about this. Like, what if I trade James Conner for Elijah Moore? Look at their scenario. Look at this individual player situation. Not just James Conner, anybody. Fournette, Mike Evans. We'll stick it with the Tampa Bay offense. Guys that we expect to pop off early in the season. Their value is going to go up from today. You can get more from them you can get more for them a month and a half from now than you can today. So just keep that in mind,
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind. As far as Zamir White,
well, just the AG shade. I also think it just he was dealing with injuries and didn't get.
He got hurt. He had a shin injury all last season.
Didn't get put on the shelf. He played through those injuries and got better each week that he played through them, and finished the year strong once he got over the shin injuries. So,
points per game RB1.
Yeah, he might have been inconsistent, but he was not healthy during those inconsistent weeks.
Yeah. That's a guy to trade for. Today, right now. That's a guy to trade for. If you could do
James Conner for AG.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah. You could even get a plus from that right now just because Gibson's value is, again, inexplicably down right now. Gibson is a guy to buy right now. Gibson's a guy to buy. If the person who has him is as concerned as the consensus is. Because we're not concerned. Should be another RB1 season for Antonio Gibson, at least from a points per game perspective. Now we can talk about Zamir White, what his value is. Is he worth a hold? I mean, yeah. Yes. It's fair to wonder how much longer Josh Jacobs has in Vegas.
I don't think it's fair to wonder. I think he has one season.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
Teams do weird things all the time. Maybe Jacobs has a big season and they re-sign him, but they declined his fifth-year option. So right now, it's fair to look at it and be like, well, he's not going to be back. And there's plenty of reasons in place to think that. It's a totally new coaching staff. I mean, that's probably the biggest, that's the biggest one to highlight. This coaching staff, this Raiders coaching staff, did not draft Josh Jacobs. That was the Gruden regime. So it's not hard for for new coaches to move on to the guys that they bring in. Zamir White is a Josh McDaniels draft pick, or at least this Raiders regime draft pick. I absolutely think he's worth a hold because he might not be far away from a 1A, or even in a 1B committee situation, he would have tremendous value. I would not include Zamir White as like a throw-in in a package.
No,
I would try to acquire him as if it's a throw-in in a package.
And I don't think anybody's doing that with a rookie running back. I don't think rookie running backs get thrown in. People want to see what they get from him.
Right. Yeah. So to that point, if you have him, yes, he is absolutely worth a hold. I would not be selling Zamir White unless somebody's willing to overpay for him. And right now, I don't even know what an overpay. I guess a first round pick would be an overpay for him. But you're not going to get that for Zamir White.
I think Zamir White has the upside to be a fast Carlos Hyde. If Carlos Hyde ran a 4.4 40, which he didn't, I think he would be Zamir White.
Okay.
I think he's a very effective runner of the football who just doesn't catch passes, which is still very valuable.
Yeah, we just got to wait a year on him potentially getting a larger role.
Yeah.
But yes, he is worth a hold.
And when I say Carlos Hyde, don't take that as like a detriment to him. It's just a comparison. Carlos Hyde isn't a very productive receiving back through the air, but consistently gets a little bit more than what's blocked for him. Has decent yards per carry throughout his career. Had a long run in the NFL.
Hyde was solid. Hyde was very solid.
Yeah.
There was a time where he was a second-round pick in redraft. So.
Yeah. I like Zamir White a lot.
Yeah. Hang on to him. No need to sell him just yet. Any news on Julio? I haven't seen anything.
No, just rumblings on people speculating on what team he could end up being on. I think he is somebody you just got to wait on.
I think he retire. Signs. Yeah, I think he still signs. I think the Packers might. I still think the Packers sign him. The Colts could also sign him. He has that connection with Matt Ryan. I know the Packers are never really big players in free agency, but we've talked at length about how this is a thin wide receiver core in Green Bay, and they could afford to add to that, and why not add a veteran to the mix of Julio's caliber? Obviously, he's nowhere. He's not the same player that he was in Atlanta, but at this point, he's a savvy vet. And I'm sure Aaron Rodgers wouldn't say no.
Look at what A.J. Green did last year.
Yeah.
He came back, played on a high-profile, high-powered offense, at least in the passing game, from the passing game perspective, with a very good quarterback. And while he didn't become a superstar in the league, he definitely showed that he still belonged and had some decent weeks. And when he needed to be relied upon, he showed that he could still be relied upon to at least do what was needed of him within the confines of the offense in which he played. Mm-hmm. I think the same thing. I think Julio can do the same thing.
I think Julio can have an A.J. Green type of 20. I think 2022 Julio can have a very similar season as 2021 A.J. Green. I agree.
Yep. For the Packers or the Colts.
Yeah, right. He's not going to sign with a bad team. I think those are the teams that are absolutely in play here. And to that point, if you play best ball, draft Julio Jones. His ADP is around 180. It's going to jump 20 or 30 spots if he lands in either of those spots.
Maybe even more.
Yeah. Yeah, if
people
you play
might
best
get
ball,
unreasonably high on Julio, and at that point he's not a buy. But right now, when he doesn't have a home, considering the teams that would have need of a wide receiver, you could even say the Dallas Cowboys have a need at wide receiver. The Packers have a need at wide receiver. The Colts have good teams with good quarterback. Well, not good teams. Good quarterbacks currently have need of a good wide receiver on the outside. The only situation in which it'd be like, don't love it, would be if he went to the Baltimore Ravens, a place he was speculated to maybe generate interest with. But if he goes to any of the other teams that we mentioned, I mean, I'm not going to say wheels up for Julio, but he definitely gets a bump. You're not going to be able to get him at the end of your best ball drafts.
Yep.
And he does deserve to be on a team in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Hunter with the question of the day.
Eddie, I just want to know if, at this point, who can eat more football snacks at a football watch party, me or Eddie Lacy? Probably Eddie.
Who's that that hot dog eating contest dude?
Joey Chestnut.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see a Eddie Lacy Joe Chestnut.
Can you imagine? Eddie Lacy is storming. He's storming the stage. He's taking hot dogs from everybody.
Oh man, we're too
madness on Coney Island. Eddie Lacy's outpacing Joey Chestnut. Can you imagine?
I loved Eddie Lacy when he came out.
I did too. I was bullish on Eddie Lacy because I've always been bullish on the Packers.
I drafted him as a rookie in our redraft league that we were playing in at the time. I drafted him as a rookie. I drafted him as a sophomore.
I had him a couple of times.
Yeah.
He had a run where he was a rock solid player.
There was a year where I had Eddie Lacy and Zach Stacy as my 1-2 punch.
Hey man.
Oh man.
The running back position is weird.
Oh, man.
Sometimes you find yourself starting guys like Tim Hightower and it works out, Sometimes
no, it's not even that. It's like, I mean, how long did Frank Gore play? You got these running backs. I mean, Mark Ingram was in the league then. Like you see running backs have like literally a 3-year shelf life, and then people you would never expect to be around in 10 years still around and still putting up respectable numbers. It's crazy. The running back position is super unpredictable.
It's weird as hell. But anyway,
great question.
Hopefully Eddie Lacy has a fun football season.
Yeah. Rojo, sounds like TDP's been dealing with some injuries. Can't say I love hearing it, but with the mess of the 49ers backfield is going to be, have him in Dynasty, but I think I'm going to steer clear of that backfield in redraft. I think that's probably might be a good bet. I think if you want to take a flyer on that backfield, Jeff Wilson might be the safest bet, as probably the guy with the lowest ADP, who always seems to work himself into significant playtime. Coaching staff favorite over there.
I haven't seen anything about. If I'm sleeping under a rock, then forgive me, but I haven't seen anything about him dealing with any injuries. I know he had one.
I think it was a report today. That was under the guise of a Jeff Wilson report, but it was talking about TDP maybe not being the secondary option, as everybody kind of alluded to when he was being drafted, that maybe the secondary option at the running back position in San Fran is still Jeff Wilson at this point in time. So,
okay.
In that report, they talked about TDP dealing with some injury.
Got it. Yeah, so personally, I'm also like, it's the guy in the 49ers backfield I want is Trey Lance. That's the player I want. That is regularly going to be in the 49ers backfield. Elijah Mitchell had a great season last year, coming out of nowhere as a 6th-round pick to lead the team in rushing. It was an RB2 in points per game, had his RB1 weeks. Now you got to spend a 6th-round pick to get him. I'm not endorsing that, but I'm not pushing for that either by any means. Elijah Mitchell is not a target for me at the running back position. The 49ers are an example of draft the cheapest guy.
And Jeff Wilson's ADP as of last week
outside
was
of the top 200.
215.9, which means he's
undrafted.
He's not ranked.
He's free.
Right.
Right. I mean, Tyrion Davis-Price's ADP is not a break in the bank either. It's probably around the 140 range or something like that. It's not. You don't have to spend up too much to get Tyrion Davis-Price. So in that regard, he's affordable. But yeah, if I'm gonna follow my own mantra,
round, but if
which is no, that's affordable. That's there's no risk there. There's no risk there. But
but that's
Jeff
when
Wilson
I'm drafting Robert Tonyan. So
yeah, well, Tonyan apparently is not going to be ready week 1.
I'll believe it when
guys
I see
who are not expected to be ready
Smoke
week 1.
screen.
But yeah, we'll see about that. Jeff Wilson is free. Trey Sermon is still there for whatever it's worth. The 49ers backfield is going to be one where, yeah, if I end up taking a shot on one, it's not going to be Elijah Mitchell. I'll take a shot on a guy who is 80 or so picks cheaper than Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah.
So, yep. Durko, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Durko?
Thanks for stopping in.
Yes, sir.
Ingram, about Jacksonville. I mean, I love his ADP. You can have him for free. I think he's available 180 picks into a draft. And I guess, this is the best situation he's ever been in.
But if we're talking about late round tight ends, there are so many other tight ends, and we talk about it all the time, that we would both rather have.
I mean, he fits the mold of what we're looking for.
Yeah.
It's just that the player himself, he's had issues with drops. Not that drops carry over year, but he's had an issue with it every season. And just there's not much to go off of in the form of consistency. Quarterback situation is better going from Daniel Jones to Trevor Lawrence. Offense should be better. We saw Zach Ertz have a very strong season with a couple strong seasons with Doug Peterson as his head coach. So maybe that trend continues where it's like, we just got done talking about how Jacksonville's receivers, there's not really anybody on the outside that instills that much fear into opposing defenses. So maybe Ingram has, he's got a huge opportunity ahead of him. It's hard to hitch my cart to that wagon though. He's free. That's nice. But there's just not much of a track record.
Yeah.
We've seen him pop off like for individual games. We've seen him blow up.
He is 27 years old, which is the age apex for tight, or usually around the age when tight ends really come into their own.
Which is good. Yeah, that's good. Is learning a new offense for whatever that's worth.
I'm out on him. Despite him having an RAS above 9, I am all the way out on Evan Ingram. I would rather have other tight ends that you can get that have RASs above 9, that are in much better offenses, like your Gerald Everett's, like your Robert Tunyons. I just think there are tight ends with RASs above 9.
Mm-hmm.
It's hyper athletic tight ends who just they don't fire. They don't. They fizzle out. I think Evan Ingram is one of them. I'll believe it when I see it, and I'll be happy missing out on the tight end or on Evan Ingram if he does well. That I'm okay with missing out on Evan Ingram if he ends up firing in year 5.
Yeah, I'll take a shot on Mo Alley Cox 30 picks later.
Yeah.
Like give me Irv Smith, give me Tunyon, give me Gerald Everett.
Ain't Dan Arnold still there?
Hunter Henry, Dan Arnold's still there, but I will give Evan Ingram that he's better than Dan Arnold. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but my point being, he doesn't have the role 100% to himself. It's not like he's playing out there with Jack or James Oshag Hennessy, and it's just him out there. He does have another guy who is athletic and can catch passes and plays the same position as him in the offense. So
yeah,
and he's not a superstar. So
yeah,
I'll be okay not having Evan Ingram on my team, even if he ends up being, a top 12 tight end.
Let me get Mo Alley Cox 30 picks later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Noah Fant, Tyler Higbee, Hayden Hurst. Like I'll take any one of those dudes. And even a guy like Tyler Higbee, who I've never been a fan of, but like with an ADP around 160, it's at that point it's like, okay, now you have to be in on him,
right?
So yeah, I mean, Ingram's cheap, he's free basically. There are other guys I would rather take a shot on personally.
Yeah,
but hey, I mean, Durko, like we always say, like if you've got a guy who you're planting your flag on, go with your gut. I just don't. I'll have maybe a couple shares of Ingram in best ball, but that's probably going to be it, just to hedge my bets. So.
And Slim, it's going to keep happening.
I like how this is just becoming a common. This is
I don't think there have been any fantasy related questions in here. He's just taking shots. It's
this is the theme of the day.
Yo, love it. Johnny Jones, defenses, Eagles or Cardinals?
So, and Scott,
I'm going to leave this to Nick.
Well, yeah. So Scott said right below, says Eagles all the way. I guess I'm inclined to agree. The Cardinals lost Chandler Jones to the Raiders.
The Eagles got,
Hassan Reddick, James Bradbury,
Nakobe Dean in the draft.
They drafted Nakobe
Still have
Dean.
Darius Slay.
They drafted Jordan Davis with their 13th overall pick.
I think I'm gonna go Eagles too, Scott.
I think it's the Eagles, because remember, the Cardinals have to play the Rams twice and the 49ers twice. The Eagles get Washington, the Giants, who should be better, but that offense isn't scary today right now. And the Cowboys, who are, you can't ever discount the Cowboys, in the regular season, but that offense is not as scary as it has been the past 3 or 4 years. With Amari Cooper gone, with, they have CeeDee Lamb, he's excellent, but Zeke is another year older, and their offensive line is the offensive line has been the Cowboys like bread and butter and a massive strength for them on offense over the past 4 or 5 years. That's not the case this year. There are multiple question marks for the Cowboys along the offensive line. So between that and without Amari Cooper, they're not as scary as they used to be. So just from a divisional perspective, it's the Eagles. And the Eagles' schedule as a whole is easier than the Cardinals.
To the year,
sure. The Eagles' schedule, actually, honestly, the Eagles' defense might be a great defense to draft because they have an opportunity to get off to a hot start. They don't play too many scary teams to open the season. They open with the Lions, right? Who have good weapons, but they're going to be without Jamison Williams. And
the Lions, I think they play the Jags in there. They play the Vikings in there, I believe. I'm not looking at it.
That's a good offense. I think they play Washington early. For me, the Eagles' schedule, the talent that they added in free agency and the draft this year, plus their schedule. Yeah, they do play the Vikings week 2. It is at home for the Eagles, so that's good. But the Vikings are a solid offense. Other than that, the Commanders, the Jags, then they do play the Cardinals on the road. That might be a week to avoid the defense. But then the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Texans, the Commanders. I mean, there's some favorable matchups in here for the Eagles. I would have to, they add Hassan Reddick, who produces sacks. They added James Bradbury, who is probably not the same as he was when he was an elite corner in Carolina, but he's still a solid player. And the defensive line is a strength because Brandon Graham comes back from injury, and they add Jordan Davis. And the Cardinals have a tougher schedule and lost Chandler Jones. Give me the Eagles.
Yeah. Eagles without all that analysis, and with that analysis, it just further solidifies my pick there. It would be the Eagles.
Yeah, give me the Eagles. They're probably a solid defense to target for the early portion of the season. And then, hope they can keep it going. But if not, defenses are easily replaceable in redraft leagues.
Yep.
And then you can play matchups. So, yeah, the Eagles.
Johnny Jones, out of those picks, man, I think I would go high upside and go Paris Campbell.
I would too.
I really would. I would just go high upside, hope that he can stave off Alec Pierce in year one and stay healthy for the first time and forever. And because I think Paris Campbell has a high upside. That's always been his thing, is that he has really high upside if he can stay healthy because of the athletic measurables that he brings to the table, size, speed freak. But he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. If he can finally stay healthy with the best quarterback that's played in Indianapolis over the past since Andrew Luck, I mean, I'm taking a shot on Paris Campbell out of those options.
He's penciled in as a starter right now for an offense that should be much better throwing the ball this year. So, yeah, give me Campbell. I mean, Marvin Jones is we just got done talking about him. He's a rock solid player and is probably going much later than he should. But Marvin Jones has a ceiling of being a wide receiver 3. Campbell might have a little bit more upside than that. Better offense, much more established and proven quarterback in Matt Ryan, and a wide open opportunity ahead of him. It's not inconceivable that you could land both of those guys, Marvin Jones and Paris Campbell, late in drafts. If that's the case, I would grab them both. Robbie Anderson, he'll have his weeks or he'll have his plays. Baker Mayfield is enough of a quarterback upgrade where it's fair to say that Robbie Anderson, he'll have his weeks, but there just hasn't been a whole lot of consistency from Robbie Anderson recently.
I've never been a fan. The one year where he did put together a good year, I traded him away right before that to somebody who was in this live stream a little bit earlier. Never been a fan of Robbie Anderson.
It's hard to throw weight behind Robbie Anderson at this point in his career.
He's always been a better best ball pick than a redraft pick.
Yeah, and then Jawan Jennings. I mean, I know he had a couple of weeks last year, or he had a couple of plays last year. We're transitioning to a new offense with Trey Lance. It's just, I don't know how much I want to get into the ancillary weapons of a team that I think is going to run the ball more than they have the past couple of seasons with Lance installed at quarterback. So yeah, Marvin Jones is fine. Paris Campbell presents very interesting upside. Either one of those guys I'm fine with, to be honest. So, yep.
I think we got a little bit of an argument brewing here.
Yeah. Oh, this is about something. This is about Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
So Joshua thinks he should be the number 1 running back this season. As far as like rankings, or as far as like where you have your running backs ranked, is Dalvin Cook your number 1? Look, I mean, let me just. I'm scrolling through the conversation here. Ed Rojo, that's funny. You played against Eddie Lacy in high school. There you go. He was probably a load to bring down back then.
You had Alfred Blue. Hey, he had a few games in there. Hey,
I mean, high school Alfred Blue probably kicked ass.
Yeah.
Probably was killing it. So, But as far as Dalvin Cook, he's a fantasy monster. But there's something that I want to actually call out about Dalvin Cook. I'm actually going to drop a tweet into the chat. You guys can look at this if you want. You don't have to. This is from Edwin Porras. He's the injury analyst for Fantasy Points. He has expressed some concerns about Dalvin Cook this offseason. I just dropped that in the chat. Because Dalvin Cook has suffered multiple dislocated shoulders. Essentially, he is arguing that, yes, Dalvin Cook is fantastic, but with each time he dislocates his shoulder, he exponentially increases his chance of re-injury. So it's something that we really need to take in consideration with Dalvin Cook. He's awesome when he's on the field. But, and there's no such thing as an injury-prone running back because the injury rate for running backs is 100%. But if there was one guy who I would tread with a little bit more caution than his what's the word I'm looking for?
Than his peers?
Other running backs. Yes, his peers. Thank you. Dalvin Cook might be it because of the specific injuries that he has suffered. He's dislocated his shoulder a couple of times, and it happened last year as well. According to Edwin Porras, this is from him. This isn't me randomly spewing nonsense, which I can always end up doing. But Porras has concerns about an enhanced re-injury issue as it pertains to Dalvin Cook. So that's all I'll say. I'm not telling you not to draft Dalvin Cook. He's a low-end first-round pick, top of the second-round pick, especially if he falls to the top of the second round. That's really difficult to pass up from a redraft perspective. But
my issue with him is
that has to be taken into account.
My issue with him is it kind of piggybacks on your take. He has never finished a full amount of games in the NFL. He's never stayed healthy for a full year. Now, running backs pile up injuries like no other position in the NFL offensively. But, I mean, most running backs have that one magical year where they where they play in the majority of games and make it till the end of the season. Now Dalvin Cook was incredible for the 2 years prior to last season. He finished as the RB2 in fantasy points per game 2 years running. This isn't to say anything about the talent that he brings to the table. But he only played in 14 games in both of those 2 seasons where he finished number 2 in fantasy points per game behind what I'm guessing would be Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. I just...
Yeah, it was awesome.
And now he's going on 27. Like, I don't see him really ever finishing a full slate of games healthy. I can't predict him to do it at age 27. I just can't.
When he hasn't done it to this point, yeah.
Right. So for him to finish RB1 in fantasy, I think he could finish RB1 in fantasy points per game. But RB1 in fantasy is a little bit too rich for me.
Yeah, the overall RB1,
I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. Look, he's excellent. And when Dalvin is on the field, when he's playing, when he plays a game start to finish,
5 best running backs in the league.
He's an RB1.
Yeah.
He's an RB1 for fantasy when he is on the field start to finish. But he has missed 3 to 4 games a season. And now, again, the tweet that I dropped in is it's a suggestion that his chance of re-injury based on the injuries he has suffered is higher than average.
Yeah.
Dislocated shoulders. And again, I'm not a doctor. I can only go off of what I am, information that is provided to me by the people that I follow on social media. Edwin Porras is a bit, he does PT. He does all that stuff. He's an injury analyst for a well-renowned fantasy website in Fantasy Points. I have to take that. This is the information that all I can go off of. And his suggestion is Dalvin Cook is awesome, but the concerns are a little brighter with Dalvin Cook, unfortunately. So draft him in the top of the second round if he's there. But yeah, then you got to prioritize Alexander Mattison. You have to, which is fine. That's fine. It's not a bad strategy, but I can't predict Dalvin Cook as overall RB1.
And the choice between, as Nemo brings up, the choice between him and CMC on a points per game basis, it's CMC.
It's McCaffrey. You have to roll the dice on him.
Even in their primes together, when Dalvin Cook was in his prime at age 24, 25, or 25, 20, 24, 25, he was behind CMC in fantasy points per game. And he had 20.9 fantasy points per game and 24.1 fantasy points per game. Incredible finishes. But McCaffrey, at his high water mark, 30 points per game in fantasy. There was a touchdown almost difference between the two at their high water mark. I don't think it's really even a question. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, the difference between Cook and McCaffrey is McCaffrey's injuries that he has suffered over the past couple of seasons are not long-term concerns the same way that Dalvin Cook's injuries are.
And at their high water marks, McCaffrey was just doing more.
I'm taking the shot on McCaffrey. If McCaffrey fails to stay healthy once again, then I'll sink with that ship. But those are the dice that I'm going to roll. I'm going to take a shot on McCaffrey. I will go back to that well. 2
straight years of above 29.3 fantasy points per game. In 2020, while he only played 3 games, 30.1 fantasy points per game in those 3 games.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I
both
agree.
Great talents, but
I agree about Madison, and I'll just you can take Dalvin Cook and then you can take Madison. That's fine. That's a totally fine strategy. Just we can't project Dalvin Cook as overall RB1.
And I don't think Ty Chandler or I think it's Bryant Koback. I don't think they're taking Madison's RB2 role.
No,
I think
Madison
they're preparing for life without Madison when Madison goes elsewhere next season and gets his chance to start for the first time in his career elsewhere. That's what that Ty Chandler and Bryant Koback pickups were. I don't think those are any threat to him this year.
Maybe Madison's the new Raiders starting running back next year.
Oh, that'd be wild.
But I do think Madison still has great value this season. But I only want him if I have Dalvin Cook, and yes, that is a fine strategy to go with. Hopefully, Dalvin Cook stays healthier than he has, but that's just hope. But we do hope it happens. Always like a good little debate in the comments section. Friendly, of course. That's what we're going here for.
Yep. The objective was happening, man.
What's going on? Hopefully, if there's anybody else that is, if we missed anything related to the Dalvin Cook conversation, feel free to throw it back at the end of the comment section if there's anything you want us to touch on about that debate. But
and Rojo, right before the objective, we'll get to the objectives question in a sec. Rojo, does King Henry have one more season in him? Is he still worth a top 3 pickup in 1 QB redraft?
Top 3?
I think he has one more season in him, playing healthy all the way through. I don't think he's a top 3 pick for 1 QB redraft, because I think that one full season for him to get through that, his touches need to be scaled back considerably. But I think the more realistic outcome for Derrick Henry is they continue to run him into the ground
for one more season, yeah.
And he gets hurt in some form or fashion by week 8 again. I think history is going to repeat itself with Derrick Henry. Maybe not in the point totals he puts up to that point, but I do think he will get run into the ground and he will pick up another injury sooner than later, because for him not to would be just an insane outlier. And he's already been an outlier at the position, but he proved himself more to last year, and I think that continues.
If if it's standard scoring and there's no PPR of any kind.
How many people are playing in standard leagues these days?
You never. There's lots of people that still stand on the hill that they don't like PPR. There's lots of people. If you play standard,
those people
scoring,
don't like fun. I'm sorry, man. Those people don't like fun.
If you play standard scoring, then Derrick Henry can be the 3rd overall pick. Sure. In half PPR, even in half PPR, forget full PPR. In half PPR.
He's 5 or 6.
There's at least 3 receivers I'm taking over him, and I'm probably taking Austin Eckler over him too.
He's the 5 or 6 ranked running back for me in PPR formats.
In half PPR, I'm taking Derrick Henry 7th or 8th overall.
Yeah. There's just built-in risk, so you gotta keep that in mind when you do draft him.
The running backs I'm taking ahead of him for sure are Taylor, McCaffrey, and Eckler, and I'm taking Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Cooper Kupp over him too.
Yep. And there are other running backs that I have ranked ahead of him, too. In our rankings, I did have Dalvin Cook ranked ahead of Derrick Henry. I think you did as well.
I did not, but I did have Najee over him.
There you go. I knew it was somebody.
I don't know if I'm. Look, I hope Derrick Henry stays healthy because if he gets another 350 to 400 carries, which that's all he's been doing for the past 5 years, then yeah, he's going to be the top 3 running back at the position. We're betting against a nasty. I hate those Jones fractures, man. I do. I hate when I hear Jones fracture, it's like
for an aging running back. Like I get worried when I hear him for a young receiver. When I hear him for an aging running back with that amount of tread on his tires, I get worried. And I don't think it saps his efficiency. I think it makes him more liable to pick up an injury sooner than later. That will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it does sap his efficiency. It does both. Look at what he did in the playoffs when he came back. He was healthy.
He rushed back.
He was rushed back, but by all accounts, he was healthy. Did he look like Derrick Henry?
No, of course not.
No.
So I think I hope he's fully healthy for week 1. He should be fully healthy for week 1. I just those Jones fracture injuries, man, they scare me. I'm still taking a chance on him 7th or 8th overall because
he's just a different dude.
He's that good. And he's just different that way. I'm a little. I do have reservations. But if he falls to 7th or 8th, or even if I end up having the 10th or 11th or 12th pick and he falls to me there, then it's like I have to do this. I have no choice but to take him. But that's the scenario that plays out maybe 1 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So you just can't bank on it.
And the objective, any thoughts on the Steelers' undrafted free agent running backs, Mateo Durant or Jalen Warren? Should a Najee owner stash both to see if one earns a spot?
You can.
I'm stashing Mateo Durant because my commissioner was nice enough to, in the offseason, open up 10 extra spots for you to accommodate your rookies and accommodate these undrafted free agents while you wait to see how they pan out in the off season. And then he might make the cuts for me on cut day. He might make my taxi squad. So if you have a commissioner that's nice enough to do that, if you have a commissioner that is an advocate for taxi squads and that sort of thing, then take a stab on I would say Mateo Durant. There was a report about Benny Snell transforming his physique in the offseason. I don't know how much I believe that. I feel like that's a book I've read before. I feel like I've specifically heard reports in past seasons about Benny Snell coming in a different looking running back this year, and it's the same Benny Snell.
Breaking news, NFL players work out in the offseason.
Exactly. So yeah, man, I would take a stab on Mateo Durant. If it ends up being Warren, then I guessed on the wrong guy. But it could just end up being boring old Benny Snell again because the coaching staff likes him.
Check the Steelers depth chart. Like, what do the Steelers have? Like, is either one of those guys actually listed? And then you can kind of just it's like just take the first dude who's listed between those names. Probably on like the depth chart on ESPN, it's like Trey Edmonds is the 4th running back listed. So, but yeah, you can take your pick there. Let me see if the Steelers on their website have like a little bit of a deeper depth chart. You can continue. I'm just gonna.
Johnny Jones, Mo Alley Cox, or Albert O. It's Albert O for me, but I like Mo Alley Cox. If I could get both of them, be very happy with myself. If I could get both Mo Alley Cox and Albert O. I think I prefer Albert O.
So, from a value perspective, Mo Alley Cox is probably 60 or 65.
Yes, from a value perspective, edge to Cox. But from a what are they going to do this year in fantasy? I think Albert O has a higher ceiling.
Yeah, has a better chance. Okay, and the Steelers do not list a depth chart on their team website until the conclusion of training camp. So, yeah, from a perspective of those stash and hope guys, you said you prefer Durant.
I do prefer Mateo Durant.
So, you can take a shot on either one of those guys, but they're long shots for sure.
Yeah.
Long shots for sure. Okay, let's see here. Rojo agrees about Evan Ingram, or with us, just like it's if we miss out on a good season from him, then so be it. Iron is just pumped for football. I like the enthusiasm. We're all in that same boat, man. A Zeke video, according to Rojo, says the knee shouldn't be a big deal. Yeah, Zeke is healthy. So the difference between Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott. So the difference between Derrick Henry and is to be drafted in the 1st round. Zeke had a PCL strain, I think. Or was it a tear? It might have been a tear. Not as severe as a Jones fracture. And was still able to play through it from week 5 on. But now Zeke can be drafted in the 4th round. So, yeah.
The difference is one of those guys historically over the last 2 to 3 years has been a league winner in Henry. The other one's just been an RB1.
Been a
boring RB1. With the guy that, and I think he suffers from this, plays with another guy in his backfield that fantasy owners like more and just have liked more for the past 2 years now. We have
Tony
two.
Tony Pollard is a clearly more talented player than any backup the Titans can boast to Derrick Henry.
But I think that Zeke just suffers from having a Pollard in that offense. From a fantasy ranking perspective.
Yeah.
Just groupthink. But I still think Zeke has a chance to be an RB1. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm all in on Zeke because for the first time in his career, you're drafting him at his floor.
Yep.
So, yes, Rojo, I'm on board with one more season of Zeke. The Cowboys have tons of incentive to give him all the work he can handle one more time. Amari Cooper was essentially a cap casualty as a result of the Zeke contract. So
he should get more receptions, and his high water reception mark led to him being the RB6 in 2018. He had 77 receptions. I don't know if we can expect that much, but with Gallup gone for half the year and them starting a rookie in his place in Jalen Tolbert, who we are relatively high on in that case too, I do think Zeke is going to pick up more passing down work. This offense will need him to do so, and he has a chance to put up 60 receptions for the first time in three seasons. And that'll buoy his fantasy ranking too on a week-to-week basis. By the end of the year, he could very well be right on that RB1 borderline again.
And in the 4th round, yeah.
I'll take it.
Yep, I will absolutely take Zeke. For one more season. I will take Zeke. At that cost, no question. So, yeah. Draft him. Draft him in the 4th round. You can draft Pollard too if you want to. Like that's not.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of that. Yeah, get both. I'm not afraid of that. there could be weeks where if they're both healthy, you could play both. But,
honestly, yeah.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, Rojo, appreciate again
much appreciated, Rojo. You already know, man.
The throw and the weight behind the likes. Appreciate it. Xavier, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Thanks
Xavier
for stopping
Dubs.
in.
I heard you're related to Romeo Dubs.
Got him. There you go. Everybody with a W is now just a dub. Everybody is Romeo Dubs. This is the Romeo Dubs channel. Welcome. Yeah, man. If you want, so we still are just offering the option to join a league with us to members. If you are interested in becoming a member, there are details in the first link of the description of this video, and pretty much all of our recent videos. If you go back a couple of months at this point, or even longer, you'll see a link on how to become a member. There are details about the different levels of perks that you have, although it's kind of becoming, now that the season is closing in, the season-long perks apply to everybody at this point, pretty much. But yeah, one of the perks of becoming a member is we are going to set up a fantasy league for the 2022 season, and members can be a part of that. So that is the
that
one
will probably be
qualification.
a discussion tomorrow with all our members. So
yeah, we need to
start getting the ball rolling.
We need to actually establish the league and set that up. But that's something that we can do on Sleeper. Yeah, probably tomorrow, even during the stream, just like set the league up.
Yep.
So, and it will be on Sleeper, but that is something that we do offer to members. So, Xavier, if you are interested, there are details in the first link in the description of this video. But yeah, man, all's good. Just staying on the grind. It's good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Hopefully all's well in your neck of the woods as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Slip's taking Jelani Woods from you once again. Okay, just to wrap this up about Dalvin Cook. So Joshua's point is that if, I guess Dalvin Cook and Madison are kind of like a combination for the potential overall RB1. So that's a slightly different conversation. But if you're combining Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison's production for the season, like the two of them are like one commodity, and you're predicting that is the overall RB1 finish for the season. Okay.
I think okay. You could say that Zeke and Pollard are.
Yeah, Zeke and Pollard, are also
because while one is on the field, the other will still have value and be able to be putting up. Right.
Pollard has a role.
They were one and two in routes run from the running back position last season. Zeke was 1, Pollard was 2. I think if you're gonna be combining the production from 2 running backs, it might have been. I
think Pollard was 1 and Zeke was 2. But yeah.
Then I think that they're a threat for that too. I don't know if that's an argument that I'm going to be making very often.
Well, the difference is, I guess, with Madison doesn't have a role when Dalvin Cook is healthy. Pollard has a role when Zeke is healthy. So yeah, maybe I guess it's kind of like 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other, as far as finish when it's all said and done. But yeah, from that perspective, Joshua, if you're factoring in like the Madison weeks where Dalvin misses, yeah, that could happen. And we're bullish on the Vikings offense this year. I think the Vikings offense is one to be invested in by any means. If you can get Jefferson in the top half of the first round, if you can get Cook near the 1-2 turn, if you can get Thielen in the 6th or 7th round, we like Irv Smith. I like KJ Osborne. Madison is probably the best handcuff in the league while he's up there with Pollard. I'm in on the Vikings this year. And Kirk Cousins. I'm in on, and whether it's super flex or, there's going to be one quarterback, there's going to be situations in one quarterback leagues where Kirk Cousins is going to have streaming appeal.
Speaking
based on matchups and injuries.
Of news that came out over the last 5 days, there was a report that Zimmer hated Kirk Cousins.
Mike Zimmer didn't like Kirk Cousins.
Hated Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, well, he's he's a curmudgeon.
I think he hates everybody, but
yeah. He didn't hate Dalvin Cook. Let's put that. He hated throwing the ball. He probably hated Justin Jefferson. I don't like good young.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was one of the reasons why Stephon Diggs wanted out, and then they ended up trading Stephon Diggs.
He absolutely had a role. Diggs didn't want to. Diggs felt like he was a second fiddle option on a run-first team, and it was like I feel like I'm wasting away. And lo and behold, he was, because look at what he's done the past couple of seasons. Yeah, wheels up on the Vikings offense in general. I'm very bullish on them. I'm very bullish on the Vikings offense.
And the objective, any thoughts on Hassan Haskins considering the Henry talk? Is he undervalued? And you are very welcome for the AMA. Nemo as a tag on says Julius Chestnut season. I still got a script for Julius Chestnut. Just have not put that video out because I've been pretty busy with this new job. But now that the new job I've kind of gotten into the rhythm with this new job, I can devote some more time to making. Yeah, I can devote some more time to making and editing videos like we used to. So Julius Chestnut video incoming. Hassan Haskins, he is underrated. He is a first and second down type back who can fill in and be their Donta Foreman for when Derrick Henry goes down. He was the reason why Zach Charbonnet transferred and stayed in the college ranks this year. He was on a team with Zach Charbonnet and relegated Zach Charbonnet to needing to transfer to boost his draft stock, and he stayed in college, and he was a guy that we were projecting to be one of the better running backs in this draft class had he come out. But Hassan Haskins was the guy that relegated him to that position. Hassan Haskins is underrated in his own right. A lot of people have really liked Julius Chestnut, have kind of tied themselves to Julius Chestnut for what he did at Sacred Heart University. Not a guy that got a ton of work, but he always overproduced with the amount of work that he got. And relative to the players the other running backs that he was playing with on the roster, he always just outperformed their efficiency metrics by a large margin, which is what fantasy analysts have pointed to as a reason why Julius Chestnut could even be the guy to be the number 2 over Hassan Haskins in the Titans offense. I'd be happy just getting one of these guys and crossing your fingers. If you can't get Hassan Haskins because he went earlier in your draft to another person and Julius Chestnut was sitting there after the draft and you picked him up, just cross your fingers and see what happens. There's a very good chance it is Hassan Haskins. He is the guy that the coaching staff drafted. He does have that edge. They also still do have Dontrell Hilliard, who was relied on to play 50% of the snaps while Derrick Henry was out. So I don't know how much upside there truly is for either of these guys if given a chance to play. But Donta Foreman had 4.3 yards per carry and had 3 100-yard games in his first 5 games. So there is technically upside, true upside, fantasy upside for either of these players if a Derrick Henry injury was to occur. So they're both good stashes. Hassan Haskins is undervalued. Julius Chestnut, I think he's been a little bit overhyped, considering the team did draft Hassan Haskins and then just picked up Julius Chestnut as an undrafted free agent. You got to think back how many undrafted free agent running backs really pan out. So you do have to weigh the two things. Is it unheard of? No. Can Julius Chestnut come in and relegate Hassan Haskins to RB3 work? Sure. But I would just be happy getting one of these guys, crossing your fingers, seeing how it all works out in the end, putting 1 or 2 of these guys on your practice squad, seeing how it all works out, because we're not predicting injury, But if there was a running back outside of the aforementioned Dalvin Cook who could pick up an injury throughout the season, it is Derrick Henry. So
based on a Jones fracture, yeah. I mean, the difference between Haskins and Chestnut is they spent a 4th-round pick on him,
right.
Whereas Chestnut was an undrafted free agent. That doesn't mean like, automatically Haskins is going to end up ahead of him on the depth chart, but it's going to play a significant role.
Yeah.
It's going to play a significant role in it's like, okay, who is the backup that is worth rostering? I think Haskins is, just by the nature of the draft capital, has a significant leg up. Chestnut's really going to have to.
And if you want to learn
have to impress.
If you want to learn a little bit more about Hassan Haskins, we do have a video on a channel, Who is Hassan Haskins? So check that out. I will put together the Julius Chestnut video within short order soon. So there will be a Who is Julius Chestnut video out soon. So keep an eye out for that. But thank you for the question, man. A good question.
Yeah.
And you are very welcome for the AMA, The Objective.
My air conditioner just spit a ton of ice on me, so that was interesting.
Cool down, bro.
Whatever. I'll take it. 100-degree heat in some of the parts of the country.
Hunter thinks we're slandering everybody. He thinks we're slandering the Packers. He thinks we're slandering Aaron Rodgers. Now he's saying the Derrick Henry slander just won't end.
We have it out for all of your guys, Hunter. We have it out for. Don't worry, man. Romeo Dubs, wide receiver 1, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about that. I'm very intrigued by Mr. Dubs. We missed a hot take from Slim though, or Nemo. I don't know what we want to. I don't know what you care to be referred to at this point now, but.
This is the reason why I skipped over this is because this is not the first time he's brought this up. This is probably the 3rd time he has brought this up in a live stream.
Have I missed this? He doesn't think he's going to finish top 5. I mean,
okay, he hasn't said that. He has just brought up the whole
no running back.
No running back is finished.
He's right. Yeah. Look, that's very fair to be worried about. That's very fair to be concerned about. Although I guess we were a little, I guess, this was brought up a couple of streams ago that Todd Gurley did do it in half PPR, I think 2017 and 2018. But even after that, Todd Gurley was done after 2018 as an age 25 running back, essentially. So, who could have possibly seen that coming? So, yeah, I mean, do the Colts want to scale back Jonathan Taylor's workload this year where it's like he's still their main guy? He's still getting 80% of the work. But do you scale back the touches, or do you do you throw the ball a little bit more here and there? Whereas last year, maybe you run the ball because you have Matt Ryan instead of Carson Wentz. It's fair. Look, Taylor's going to get 300 plus touches, 350 touches. But does Nyheim Hines mix in a little bit more because now they have a quarterback who can throw it short to running backs? Do they air it out a little bit more? Because, I'm just going to – the Carson Wentz slander. Because you want to talk – Hunter, I hope you're not a Carson Wentz guy, because if you want to talk about slander, the Colts should be better throwing the ball this year because they have Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan is better than Carson Wentz by a significant margin. It's just point-blank difficult to repeat as the number 1 player. It just is. Like, you are the top option any given season. You are the number 1 player at your position, and then you have to do that again. That's hard. That's really difficult to do. There's a reason there's a reason that the guys don't duplicate number 1 overall seasons very often.
His carries
so it's a fair concern to have.
His carries might get, brought down a little bit, but I think if anything,
go up.
His catches go up. I think if anything, his catches go up. I mean, we saw Zeke in 3 years into his career get 70 catches for the only time in his career. Jonathan Taylor's going into his third year.
Maybe he sees an uptick in catches. Right. That would be cool.
Right. I think with the quarterback that can get him the ball through the air, yeah. And it's not just Nyheim Hines who's going to get targeted more. It's probably going to be JT as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at the season Cordell Patterson had last year. Obviously, he's a different breed, different type of player, but he was very effective catching the ball out of the backfield with Matt Ryan as his quarterback. It could be good news for both Taylor and Hines. Mike Davis was a good pass-catching running back last year, too, in spurts. So, I mean, yeah, maybe Taylor sees a few more targets, which would be awesome. But yeah, I can understand not wanting to rank, or, if you're doing your own personal running back rankings, I can't move Taylor probably anything lower than second. But to me, he still remains the safest bet. He's the safest bet right now, just by nature of what he did last year, to have a top 5 finish once again at the position. If you want to rank McCaffrey ahead of him, fine. You won't get any argument from me. And there will probably be some that list Derrick Henry, maybe Austin Eckler as their RB1 or RB2 on the season, or going into the season. But out of respect for what they did last year, I have to have Jonathan Taylor ranked in the top 2. I have to have Cooper Kupp ranked in the top 2 for wide receivers. It's it's just kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
The concerns are legitimate. You're not, and I understand you're not saying like, oh, he's not going to be an RB1 this year, but to finish as the overall RB1, the overall wide receiver 1, the overall any position, it is naturally difficult to duplicate those results or replicate them. It is hard to do, because now you look at these excellent players. Now NFL teams are, now it's like we've got a full offseason to game plan to try to do a slightly better job than teams did last year to neutralize these guys. And will that work? We'll see. You're talking about some of the best players in the league, but Jonathan Taylor is, there's a target on his back. Cooper Kupp, there's a target on his back. And that's not to say that these guys aren't excellent, but now guys, now they were last year, these guys were the hunters. Now they're the hunted. And I'm not even talking about opposing defenses. Just other players, Justin, their peers, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, but how many guys have averaged 5.5 yards per carry on a season where they had 332 rush attempts? I don't know how much I can
Taylor's
fade.
Awesome.
I don't know how much I can fade Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, I just said I can't put him lower.
He did
than
that
second.
in an offense where he was pretty much the whole offense.
Yeah, no, like I said. If I'm ranking,
he's had Jamal Charles level efficiency numbers over the course of his 2-year career thus far.
If I'm ranking Jonathan Taylor anywhere for the 2022 season, at worst, it's second. At worst, I'm not moving Taylor down. I can't say that he won't be a top 5 running back for the season. Just that it is fair to have some concerns that it is incredibly difficult to replicate back-to-back overall number 1 finishes. That is difficult to do. That is but like if he finishes as the RB3 on the season, you didn't lose taking him number 1 overall. Most likely. No. You didn't lose.
You just solidified getting a top 3 RB1.
You got a guy who was as safe as the first pick can amount.
With zero gambling. Like you didn't have to gamble on that. You just picked a top 3 guy.
Right.
Don't get mad if he finishes 3rd.
Nah.
Yeah. That's all you're doing by picking first is solidifying your chances of getting a guy that will finish somewhere close to where he's being drafted. The further you get away from that number 1 pick, the further the variance can be. Right. But there's a good chance that he won't finish as the RB1. There's no world in which I don't have him as my RB1.
Right. Yep.
That's where I'm at.
Yep. Yeah. No. That's a good way to put it. That's a nice little way to kind of wrap a bow on this part of the conversation. Taylor is about as safe as it gets at a position that can be very much considered not safe.
And Hunter, this is the last comment in the chat here. You love Derrick Henry, but you're really thinking about moving him for CMC because of how concerned we are about him. Now, look, man.
Even if I wasn't concerned.
But I just want to caveat by saying, do your own research on it. Be confident in how you feel about it.
Yes.
Do all the research you need to do to back it up. before selling the farm. You don't want to give up too much to acquire CMC for Derrick Henry. There's a sweet spot there. Definitely see if you can get it done. And we're always here to bounce your ideas off of, for sure, if it's not in a live stream, in the Discord. But if you love a player, like don't like we can be wrong on players. We've been wrong on Derrick Henry habitually. We've been wrong on Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry has habitually just been a different dude.
Yeah. He bucks all trends that we try to predict or have tried as it pertains to him specifically. So yeah, but
we would both advocate that you would try to get rid of Derrick Henry for CMC.
Yeah,
but you might feel differently.
You
might like the guy more this year, and in that case, like you have the right to not listen to us.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I just want to. If you got a guy that you absolutely love and you believe in, don't let us talk you down. But if you're willing to if you're open to all opinions and you feel like our points are valid, then definitely try to explore something. But if you like a guy, you're dead set on keeping him, you're dead set on this guy is still a difference maker, then stick to your guns too. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
But we both agree that CMC
with Christian McCaffrey, that's a cheat code that is worth taking a shot on if you can if you can find a way to get him without breaking the bank. And if Derrick Henry is the main piece that you move to acquire him, and all that requires that it is like a 2023 second round pick, I'm smashing accept on that.
I am too.
All day long.
But everything is situational, so make sure you're 100% okay with doing it before you do it.
Right.
Don't do it just because we tell you to. But at least think about it. So I don't know if that helps. Regardless, thank you all for chilling with us today for this live stream. Real good having Nick back in the fold. We will be back tomorrow for our members only live stream, where we will most likely be setting up the league that we promised you guys for all our members. League. If any of you guys want to be involved, there's still time, so you still have time to join as a member, and we'll get you involved in the league as well. And but for all y'all members who want to have input on the format and a couple of the settings and all that stuff, the dates that we try to figure out for the league draft and all that stuff moving forward, definitely try to make it to the live stream tomorrow. But
if you can't, you could throw thoughts in the Discord,
and we will be throwing our breakdown of everything in the Discord as well. And we'll be back for all y'all guys who aren't members, guys and gals who aren't members. We will be back Thursday with another stream for y'all.
Thursday, same time. Yep. Tuesdays and Thursdays each and every week. Wednesdays for the members. And if you don't have to be a member to join the Discord if you want to keep the conversation going over there. We got a great community of people who are always willing to talk shop, always willing to, we can take questions, we can field thoughts about a trade or anything, any one specific scenario or a player. That's what that's for. But yeah, I think that about does it for today. I actually don't know what I have cooking as far as videos this week to put out, but obviously stay tuned on that. Now that you got
back
from a vacation.
Just, I think all you need to worry about is just doing the 2 updates that you mentioned in the live stream and into the redraft draft kit that you put together.
Yeah, I gotta fix up the draft plan, which will be available to the general public. I think we're shooting for August 1st.
But for all members, you already know it's in the Discord, so definitely check that out. 30 plus pages of real good content.
That was a sleep deprived weekend last weekend, but I'm happy I got it done, and appreciate the kind words that some folks had about it. So hoping to spruce it up even a little bit more and a little bit better, and we'll continue to update it as the preseason, as we enter the preseason. So
yes, sir.
Looking forward to it.
But all right, guys, thanks for chilling for the live stream. We'll see y'all members tomorrow. We'll see everybody else on Thursday. Hope y'all have a great rest of your night and a good day tomorrow before we see y'all if you're members, and a good next few days for all y'all who aren't.
For everybody.
Yeah, take it easy, y'all.
Yep, everybody have a good night. Thanks for tuning in.